What is up, everyone? What is up? Happy... Well, it's Monday, so we're not happy about that. It's Monday! Boo! Boo Monday! I miss having the 4-day weekend. That was really nice. Wasn't that nice if you had the advantage of that? 4 days. I slept in. I felt nice. Then I remembered I have work. You're going to have much review and stream you have to do. Yeah, I was thinking I may have to do an extra stream day as well this week. I do have a couple of videos that I finished recording. They're already edited. I may have one come out this week and the other one next week. Both of them are dealing with stuff in the Homelab. Speaking of the Homelab, I have some nice upgrades coming in. So I'm going to be doing a bit of an overhaul. So I've kind of been giving hints of little things I'm doing. Well, I finally decided to stop hemming and hawing over the big piece I wanted to do. So I have a new server coming in for my pfSense firewall. So the idea is, there's nothing wrong with the hardware I have running it now. It's an Intel Atom C3758 server edition, 16 gigabytes of ECC memory. Perfectly fine. Running great. And I'm noticing spikes when I load up the Suricata rules a couple times a day. About 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's coming down to the fact, due to the fact that Intel Atom, it's great for a lot of their purposes, but I'm starting to get to the limit of it because it doesn't have what's called AVX2, which allows me to do more instructions per core. So I have what's called a Super Micro Super Server E308D coming in, and this is going to allow for two things. Two upgrades particularly. So one is that Xeon processor with AVX2, so I'll be able to get more instruction sets and more smoothly be able to do my firewall. I'm going to take the 16 gigabytes of ECC currently in the Atom, move it over, put 64 gigs of ECC DDR4 memory into the Atom server, and that's going to become my new Docker box. It's got 8 Intel Atom cores, so that'll be great. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of musical computers and Dockers. All the Dockers that are currently on the Raspberry Pi 4 will be moved to that. The Raspberry Pi 4 running the Docker containers will be repurposed to be the UniFi controller, because the UniFi Cloud Key Gen 2 that I had, the battery has died on it, so I want to move to something else. NAS that I have is acting as the NUT server, the network utility tools. It's always funny whenever I say that. So the idea is everything behind that UPS will all get networked at the same time. What is my formal education background? I don't have much of a formal education background. I went to school because my family kind of made me do it. I didn't really see the point in it, but basically I've been working in IT longer than I had the degree. Let's put it that way. So I have the associate's degree in, network system administration, but I'm going to be going for my bachelor's from WGU just because I have my CISSP already, and knock that out, get the stupid 4-year degree that HR people want to see you have, even though I'm literally not going to learn anything in school. Like, I'm at the point where I'm not trying to sound like an egomaniac or a megalomaniac or whatever the proper term is. But I honestly know more than you're going to learn in a classroom. And that's just how it works with you're in the field. Every person that gets out of school learns that they didn't learn jack in school. Love WGU for the fact you can take the final as soon as you get into the class. Yep, that's part of the reason why I'm doing it, because I'm going to test out of the majority of classes. My CISSP, the classes I took in community college a few years ago, as well as my associates are going to place me out. Unfortunately, I got that associates more than 5 years ago, so I technically have to take classes for basic IT and all that, so I'm going to do that. I know I have to do a capstone project. That's going to be super easy. I'm literally going to take what I do in my home lab, figure out one of the things, and do it. But yeah. What is the best way to deboot an old PC so that it runs smoothly? Install Linux on it. That's not even a joke. You're literally talking about an old computer. Most old computers can't run Windows 11. So your real only option is, depending on the age of the computer, of course, but in most cases of what is an old computer, you're going to want to just install Linux on it. I don't know what else to tell you. People actually notice this all the time. When you take an old computer and you install Linux on it, it feels fast. Like it just feels like you have a brand new computer. And people do not understand just how much Windows bogs down a computer because of all the bloat and the extra crap they keep throwing in. Like, even a de-bloated Windows doesn't hold a candle to Linux because it's still got bloat and backwards compatibility BS in there. I just opened up TikTok. The waist of this lady is actually concerning. Wait, what? Yeah. By the way, how's the TikTok looking over there? I did some tweaks to the video over there to try to conserve a little bit of bandwidth. Because now it's downscaling to 720p. You should make an OS then. No. The biggest mistake anyone makes is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go make my own operating system. There's millions of operating systems out there. Well, not millions, but there's already like a half a dozen operating systems out there. Just in Linux, there's hundreds of different distributions. Pick a distribution, customize it to the way you want, because you're going to have a whole community around those things that is going to be larger than you probably can do on your own. And for the people that are out there, like, Linux on Scratch is great. And Linux from Scratch is great. It is great for an education tool, but you do not want to run your own operating system that you built from scratch. Looking pretty good on TikTok. Nice. Yeah, I downscaled it to 720p. The reason why is, you're on a phone. You're not going to notice 1080p to 720p. I know some of you people are going to be like, I noticed. No, you don't. You probably didn't notice until I told you. 1080p is on the Twitch, the Kicks, the Tubes. And TikTok also just has a smaller window. No, you didn't, Dev. No, I gave my cats that premium grade catnip. Oh, you gave them kitty crack. Gotcha. So what did you send me? Hold on. Holy crap, you're not wrong. That's gotta be a filter. That's gotta be a filter. Hold on, I'm gonna show this to you. No, you're gonna see it on the stream here. That's gotta be a filter. If not, that's an extreme corset, and honey, let your internal organs breathe. Did you like get your kidneys removed to get this to fit like that? I'm not playing it on stream, I'm just showing. But yeah, this is a little bit concerning. Citibank cyber intern interview on Wednesday. Any tips? Well, first off, mazel tov on getting the interview. In person or remote. Either way, dress appropriately. Get at least a button down. Ask them what the dress code's going to be like and things like that. Just present yourself as best as possible and, you know, come in with confidence, but not cockiness, and just express that you have an eagerness and willingness to learn. You know, you're a sponge. Internships, it's kind of different than getting a regular job. Don't get me wrong, it's still work. I'm not I'm playing it by any means. But I think you'll do very well. Of course, internships get competitive, so, you know, there is that. We're screwed as civilization. Yes, we are. Not a filter. I've seen that IRL. Good God! That's an actual thing, IRL? I'd be too concerned with someone like that. Like, you walking around like actual, like, Barbie doll. Like, no, that's not even Barbie doll. That's like, would that be like Betty Boop? Good God. Anyway, so this is the server that I'm getting. I'm going to show you. 8D. Oh, they have the 90? Oh, the 9... Oh, that's right. I didn't want to go for the 9D because it had a more powerful CPU, but it had less ports. So this is the server I'm getting. I actually have been liking Supermicro. You can get them pretty cost-effectively for home labbing equipment, even brand new. So, can I get a better picture? Hold on. No, of course you can't. Hold on, I'm gonna try to get a better picture out here. That's the one thing that bites whenever you get Supermicro stuff. You kind of have to know what you're looking for. They're not the easiest to go around and be like, I want that, I want that. It took me a while to dig through and be like, this is what I wanted. Hold on. That should work. There we go. So it doesn't ignore this little PCI Express slot over here. I can add that later. I just have to get a riser for it. But it has all these Ethernet ports here. That's an IPMI port. That's used for management. But it's got 2 SFP ports as well. So the specs are... For this little guy, this is going to be my new firewall. An Intel Xeon D 1518, 35-watt CPU, so slightly more power than my Intel Atom Server Edition. 2.2 gigahertz, but I think it turbos to 3. 4 cores, 8 threads. Much larger cache. And it can support up to 128 gigabytes of registered ECC DDR4 memory, but I only need 16 for firewall. Like, seriously. Even on enterprise firewalls, for actual enterprises, 16 gigabytes is a luxury. Maybe at most 32. But I'm going to be taking the 2 8 gigabyte sticks that are currently in my Atom, moving them over, and then I got 2 32 gigabyte sticks, and I'm going to put those into the old box. I didn't realize it had 4... SATA 3 ports. Interesting. But it only has, I think, what is it, one 2.5-inch cage. I'd have to probably adjust that, but that's with the AOC area not occupied, which would be this guy. I may be able to tweak that, but either way, I'm not really going to need it. It's got 3 40mm fans, so it's going to be a little bit loud. I'm going to see if I can adjust those, but... This right here is one of the 2 reasons why I got this. So we have dual 10 gigabit SFP plus ports. We have quad 1 gigabit ports with the Intel i350. And then we have another dual 1 gigabit with an i210. So I'm going to figure out how I'm going to label all those. And I got to figure out which is which. But that's going to be a lot of... ports. Right now, I only have 4 IX ports and 4 IGB ports, and I added the 4 because of the Ethernet card. That was back when pfSense didn't support Intel IX. Now they do, and it works great. So, that's why I also got that. It was to prepare for 10 gig networking. The question that I'm going to have, and I may have to tweak this down the road, is if when I ever get a network connection that's over 1 gigabit per second from the outside, how I'm going to divvy that up. What are you laughing at, Vampire? Oh, just going to add more. Do you support marriage? No, I am against marriage of all shapes and forms. And no, it has nothing to do with, you know, gay marriage or straight marriage. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Y'all do whatever the hell you want. But yeah, this is gonna be a nice little upgrade. So the main reason I'm getting this is the Intel Xeon D processor, which is going to have AVX2 to improve my Suricata intrusion detection and intrusion prevention system performance, and the 10 gigabit networking. And then that'll open me up if I ever want to add another 10 gigabit card, I can do that down the road. Oh, what just Dev said, it's funny. Oh, lurk captioning? Wait. Weird streams. I have all streams pulled up. Tech question. I have a game I've been playing for 21 years I don't want to give up on. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna fly. Oh, sorry. So what's the question then? I feel like you cut off. You still typing it on TikTok? I need to get that Jeopardy music sound. Do dee do 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 dee do. That game's running a kernel anti-cheat. Is it possible to work on Linux? Wait, 21-year-old game has a kernel level anti-cheat? That was a thing back then? Which game is it? That's the big question. You can go to, was it ProtonDB, I think it is? Yeah, you can go to the website ProtonDB over here. And you can look up any game. Deck around. Did you type that right? I've never heard of this game. Would you run pfSense plus Suricata on a Pi 5? No, you can't run it on an ARM CPU unless you get Netgate official hardware. They do not have an ARM version on the Community Edition, so it's not that you... Well, you shouldn't running all that stuff, but you can't, literally. So, yeah, you would definitely need to, it's correct, Decaron with UbiFun Publisher. Never heard of it. I don't even know if that has a kernel-level anti-cheat. I thought kernel-level anti-cheat was still... Okay, it came out in 2004. Let me see. Looks like there's people doing it. I don't think it has kernel-level anti-cheat, but, there is articles from 2010, well, not articles, but forum posts on how to use it on straight wine. So, it's had support for quite a while. Like, that's straight wine. That's not even, like, that's back in the old days when it was hard to do this. Or more annoying than anything. So, I mean, based on the fact that they've, you know, done this a while ago, it's not a very popular game, though. At least from what I see. Hold on. They say that you can run it on wine. I don't know. I haven't played this game, so it's not really something I can say definitively, but, it seems like people have been able to get it running in wine. Although I don't know why you would have kernel-level anti-cheat, especially one that's like 20 years old at this point. Hey, the DT 990 Pro 250 ohm, what's the best and budget amp that can reach its full potential? Okay, so this is one I have. I don't use it anymore, not because it's bad, but it's because I have the Rodecaster Pro 2 that does it, so I keep this around for every time I need it. This is this Mayflower Electronics made this, but it's an open source standard called the Objective 2 amplifier and DAC. So this one can run on Linux, Mac, Windows, and PlayStation. No, I did not missay that. PlayStation also works with this. You can use USB connection. It's a little mini USB. That shows you how old this guy is. I have the version that I had RCA put in. There's a little DC connection over there. You can also put an input in through a 3.5 millimeter, but you can just put the headphone in there, and then you can have different gain settings. I think this will set you back about a couple $100. The other one that I hear is called the Shit Stack TikTok. I did not say anything wrong. That is Sierra, Charlie, Hotel, India, Tango. That may run you a little bit more money, but I hear good things about it. You can pick it up from Shit Audio. Half-Life Alex VR performance in Windows versus Linux. Well, Half-Life, so anything made natively by Valve works in Linux in Valve. I mean, works on Linux natively. Like, you don't even need to run Proton. They've made it run natively in Linux. So Half-Life will work fine. They've done a lot of optimizations. The Half-Life, the Valve Index and seeing the Valve Frame, those are designed to work on Linux. In fact, the Valve Frame is running Linux itself. So this is the amp that they have a few amp options here. Now, of course, they can be a little bit more expensive, so it depends on what you want to get. Like, they have all the way from entry-level audiophile all the way up to, you know, you got some really expensive gear out here. You can spend thousands on audio equipment if you haven't realized. But I hear good things from them. I think Mayflower Electronics is still in business. I think JBL or JL used to make the amp as well for the Objective 2, but I don't know if they do it anymore. Apparently they're accepting Bitcoin and Ethereum now since I last was here. But anyway, so they have the O2 ODAC over here. They also have this ARC, which is built off of the O2 ODAC, which can do a little bit more. So like the ARC, the advantage here is if you do gaming and stuff, you can put your microphone in there too. So, but this one's not open source. But it's still not a bad thing from what people have told me. They like it. You can get the... So that'll run you about the same. 300 with the power supply. Basically the same thing, but except you got a USB-B port over there. They have an optical in for, you know, Toslink over there. So if you want your fiber connection. So it's got Toslink, whereas the other one doesn't. Different port over there. It's still a nice little box, still the same hardware. But if you want the same one I have, it's this, the Objective 2. I've got the O2, the DAC and amplifier, I think it is. I think. I just get confused with these two. But yeah, you can get this over here. The gain settings I have on there are the default ones. Then you get a US plug. I don't know if they stopped making versions with the RCA ports. Or was that the different version that I got? Oh yeah. So it was the O2. But that combo is not available right now. So yeah. You can get the shit stack. You can get the O2 over here, which should work too pretty well. You can get the ARC, which works well as well. Those should all be fine. Mini USB, goddamn, that was back when MP3 players and digital cameras were around. Yeah, yeah. But that shows you how long I've had that amp, and it still works. It's a solid champ. There's a reason why I still recommend that amp. Because like the ones from Shit Audio, they are the shit, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to badmouth them at all. But as you can see, they can be kind of expensive. What would I search to find out how to run that game on Linux? I'm on Pop! OS distro at the moment. There was nothing on Proton. It doesn't seem to be a popular game. At that point, excuse me, I would probably just Google, and maybe Lutris has something on it. Well, because that, yeah, it would probably make sense, because it's probably not on Steam. Yeah, there we go. I think this is it. Yeah, so it looks like Lutris has it. So you can probably get it working with Lutris. Which I actually use from time to time for a few games. So let me see. Search. They got Decaron G. Oh, is this a French game? Après le lancement de Decaron. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. But it looks like they have an installer for that. Korean. But yet the help is in French. Interesting. But yeah, it looks like they have an installer for Decaron G. Decaron G. Why did I say it that way? Oh, that's why I said I was like G and I was looking at users. There's only 2 users on this game on Lutris. There's not a lot of people playing it. Huh. Interesting. Okay. But yeah, I would try Lutris to try to get that working. I can only speak French. I can't read it. I don't care if I can't read it. Tu ne parles en français? That's not the correct game. Ah. We got this one. It's just not that popular. You're gonna have to probably ask around. Maybe find a more popular game. Get this one. Why do they have to... Why do like all these games not be popular and use the same name? I shared one ad on TikTok for a short survival clip, and now it's every video. I mean, you can try with Lutris, getting it installed. You may have to do some trial and error. Unfortunately, it's not a very well-known game. Like, it's not even in the same thing as, like, my game that I like, Tribes 2, which is an oldie, which is still somewhat popular. Like, that came out even longer than yours. And, like, look. There's still more people using Lutris for this game that's older than your game. Assetto Corsa is the one that gives me trouble. Is Assetto Corsa the, driving game? But yeah, okay. But back to what I was saying. This server's coming in. That'll be my new firewall server. So, oh yeah, I built the LLM server. Although... What the hell? This is the interesting thing. It's hanging. So this is why I rebuilt the entire server with another motherboard besides space, was to get it to not hang anymore. And after a while, it will just stop responding. Interesting. I wonder why that is, because it works fine when locally on the machine. See? Now it'll just stop. I have no clue why that's happening. That is the weirdest thing. Hope you already got RAM. Yeah, I already got RAM. I bought that like last month. It's DDR4 32 gigs. So the prices on DDR4 isn't as bad. DDR5 is where you're getting killed. Every experience I have with Linux. No, that's the weird thing is it's only happening with this particular box. And what I can't understand is I have a new CPU, a new motherboard. I even put an Intel NIC in there to possibly alleviate this. It's got a whole new motherboard, everything. I even reinstalled the OS. So I'm gonna have to do some troubleshooting in that, because that was the whole reason why I did that entire build the way I did it. Because I thought originally part of the issue was the system I had. So if it wasn't the motherboard, then damn, I have a Ryzen 3400G and a motherboard laying around. I just got to put some more DDR4 memory in. The RAM for the poor protogen they are going to stare. Yeah, and this is why I say that everyone was like, you know, cryptocurrency is the reason GPU prices are spiking and all that. Don't know if there is as much truth to that as there is now with the whole LLM craze, because that really is starving the chip supply and everything. i350. Hold on, I'm just looking up something. Yeah, it's just crazy. i350, top cause of only remote server hang. Hitting C groups, Ubuntu's default logic and throttle. But yeah, I'm not happy with how RAM prices are going, because it's definitely keeping me from upgrading and all that. Fresh install 1A. This exact cause IGP regression. But I'm running it. Yeah, I'll have to look into that later. That's interesting. Ryzen C state. Ooh. In BIOS, disable global sleep states. i350 offload bug. But no, that would have been the same thing. But anyway, we're going to get into the review on stream stuff. We have some cool stuff happening with the Homelab, so by January, we're going to have a complete overhaul of this server. We got a lot of stuff to watch because Vampire hates me and he keeps throwing stuff in there. I'm kidding. Where are we at? Okay, so we needed to watch... Was it this video? Yeah, okay. Any advice on running SteamOS with an NVIDIA GPU? Yeah, install SteamOS, install the NVIDIA GPU, and then play. If you're that worried about NVIDIA working out of the box, just install Pop! OS, but NVIDIA drivers work just fine on Linux. How do I know? I'll prove it. That's what I'm running right now. I'm running a 3070. No issues. You do just have to install the NVIDIA drivers. The proprietary ones are used for an older driver. You can use the open drivers. So on my LLM server upstairs, to get the 3050 and the 5060 Ti scene, I had to install the NVIDIA open drivers. They're open sourced ones they're doing. I couldn't use the proprietary ones because the proprietary ones wouldn't work with the new series. So like, they're leaning more towards open source now. But
we finally have...
Oh yeah. Probably should check.
Intel Arc GPUs working on the Pi somewhat stably. It required overcoming many small hurdles, but it looks like support could land in Raspberry Pi OS if we can get a simple patch upstreamed. And that patch doesn't just enable Intel on Pi, it also
Android
makes Intel
Tactical
GPUs run on RISC-V machines.
We talked about it a few
and
streams
other ARM
ago.
systems. But if we can get this fixed in Intel's open source drivers, all you'd need to do to use an Intel card on a Pi is install a firmware package. The cards I've spent the most time with so far are the A750, the B580, the Pro B50, and the A310 Eco. Intel's
interesting how Minis forum makes a platform.
I've also
I didn't
heard
know
good
that.
reports on the A350 and A770, though I haven't personally tested those cards. Also, the low-end A310 can be especially picky about PCIe link signal integrity, so it pays to use a solid dock and adapter. In my Pi...
Okay, in all honesty, I'm not hating on him in the least, but I don't see the value in putting a GPU on top of a Raspberry Pi. Let's think about this critically here for a second. You have to still use a regular power supply to feed it, okay, as you can see down there, which means you're still going to need a platform. Then the Raspberry Pi itself, you're still going to have to interface it in to the actual device there. At that point, you're looking at a low-end PC anyway. I mean, it's fun to tinker with and play with the idea of, but I'm just giving my 2 cents.
100+ video, I had some trouble with graphics cards on this Minis forum doc, but after publishing that video, someone mentioned there's an M.2 adapter with a built-in PCI Express read driver that boosts the signal and might work better. So I tried that, and what do you know? All the cards I was having trouble with, including this A310 Eco, now work. As a quick refresher, to physically connect a graphics card to the Pi, you need an eGPU dock, like this one from Minis forum, or this one from JMT. Then you plug that into the Pi using a PCI Express adapter. Like on the Pi 500, I have this M.2 to Oculink adapter with an Oculink cable that goes from there into the dock. Most graphics cards also need a separate power source, so you'll need a PC power supply to power both the dock and in some cases the card too. Now, this video has a companion blog post where I'll detail the steps for making a Pi 5, 500+, or CM5 work with any current Intel graphics card. For AMD,
significance of Meshtastic.
The drivers are even more
stable. It's a decentralized offline communication service. I run a few Meshtastic nodes.
You don't even need to recompile the Linux kernel. And yes, while that means I won't be able to wear my recompile Linux shirt every day now, it also means more people will be able to test these changes since they're easier to make. All you have to do is install the patched kernel from the Raspberry Pi Linux repository, and that can be done with sudo rpi update pols/7113. Then you tweak a few settings to make sure the Pi loads that kernel okay, and the specific instructions are in my blog post since I can update that more easily if things change. But right now, the main thing you have to do for the Intel driver is also to force probe all devices, otherwise it'll complain about being on an unsupported system. I mean, I guess Intel didn't expect us to be running their GPUs on single-board computers, but it's not like they've been doing great on regular desktops lately. Other than that, depending on the specific card, you need to install the right firmware. Some of the older ARC cards are in the firmware Intel graphics package, while others have newer firmware that you might have to download manually. Whatever the case, you can check what's happening by running the dmessage command in Linux. That shows you the kernel logs, and you can search in there for any messages from
I was
Z
using that
or
earlier
XE.
so that I could fix
That's
my
Intel's Linux
NVIDIA
driver name.
drivers.
Again, check my blog post for details. Right now, each card requires something a little different. But after that, you might boot up and just get a blinking cursor if you plug a monitor into the Intel card. That's because right now at least, the Intel GPU support isn't built into the version of Mesa that ships with Raspberry Pi. Mesa is a 3D graphics library, and modern desktops will try using it by default for GPU acceleration.
Right.
You could bypass Mesa and render the desktop on the Pi's CPU, but I prefer to render things through the GPU so the CPU can focus on other stuff. Unfortunately, you have to manually compile a newer version of Mesa if you want this GPU acceleration. Again, I have instructions for that linked in my blog post. It might be possible to get the right Iris Intel drivers compiled into the version that ships with PiOS out of the box, but right now I'm focused on kernel level changes, getting those into the PiOS. And some people I'm sure are already wondering about resizable bar. Basically, modern graphics cards like to have larger memory allocations.
Had to install that earlier.
Between the system memory and VRAM. It helps things go a bit faster, and Intel cards especially can be picky about rebar support. Luckily, the Pi supports resizing the bar out of the box, but right now the Intel drivers, and actually all the drivers I've used on ARM, don't know how to do that yet. So again, I have a blog post with the details if you really want to go there. But I should note that resizable bar isn't required, but it does help with performance. But performance isn't my main concern yet, mostly because there are some quirks we still have to work out, probably having to do with memory mapping in Intel's drivers. A lot of the driver expects an x86 system where memory guarantees are a lot different than on ARM and RISC-V.
Yeah.
So that's probably where
nobody's really doing full-on stuff on ARM that much.
A little weird here. Like, each of the cards has some rendering artifacts in the GUI, mostly towards the top of things that are rendered on the screen, like windows, menus, and pictures on the web. Sometimes textures on a 3D object load weird when you're using Vulkan, like with this VKMark demo here. OpenGL renders things fine though, so there's full 3D acceleration, it's just something with the memory mapping and the textures. And because those little memory errors seem to add up over time, it seems like on some cards, even things like running AI models with llama.cpp get a little sketchy when they use more of the VRAM. Smaller models seem to run fine, and they're pretty fast too, but larger models would error out or start repeating their output after a little bit. But overall, the performance on Intel cards on the Pi is summed up pretty well in this GravityMark benchmark graph. They're not going to take home any performance crowns, especially since, I should note, NVIDIA doesn't even show up on this list yet.
You found the anti-cheat.
Either, especially considering
it wasn't a very popular game. I wasn't really seeing anyone
smaller AI
use
models
it.
perform well, but larger models run into those memory quirks. The B50 Pro paired with a Raspberry Pi could make an efficient Homelab LLM setup, but we really need to figure out how to get the memory issues sorted out. So where do we go from here? Right now, AMD graphics cards work pretty much flawlessly thanks to Yang Haku and a number of other contributors. Intel graphics are getting there, and all the stuff for both of these sets of cards is just 23 lines of changes to the Linux kernel. But before these changes will make it into Raspberry Pi Linux, we need to get them into upstream Linux. The Intel changes in particular, since they affect both ARM and
That's going to take a minute,
are already being worked on in a Linux kernel patch. And to help prod that along, I posted my first ever reply to the Linux kernel mailing list. If I get some time, I'll keep pushing that forward. The main thing is making sure
I haven't had a need to contribute to that yet.
And work well for all non-x86 systems, not just the Pi. So stay tuned and make sure you follow any of the cards you're interested in over on my Pi PCIe project. I'll have links to everything I've mentioned in this video below. Until next time, I'm Jeff Geerling.
So, I've been interested in looking at the Intel GPUs for a while because they're relatively inexpensive, because eventually I do want to make a Jellyfin server, but I'm concerned with transcoding because I do want it to do that. And by the way, over on the side over here, if you're wondering what I was doing, I'm using the Windows Streambox to do the same networking test to my LLM server. There's something weird going on with my main desktop over here, that it hangs only when I'm SSHing to that box. It doesn't hang when I'm SSHing to anything else. Like, I can leave it on my Pi for days, all of that. I don't know. Those issues will probably get blown away once I completely reinstall Pop! OS with 2604. But anyway, yeah, transcoding. Definitely been interested in looking at an Intel Arc GPU, just because if I can at least have them do decode on H.264, H.265, I can reasonably do a jellyfin server, but then I also need to look at how am I going to have it receive the video on the 2 TVs I may actually be using it with. Because I do know for a fact that Roku will work with, I think it was Paramount was the one I was having issues with on Linux. Like, it just would not cooperate when every other streaming service would. But yeah. Just trying to get off MS. OS is irritating. Yeah, I get it, but I'm not trying to be a dick here, but could you have picked a game that actually had any more of a community around it? Like, seriously, that's going to be one of your big problems. If you pick very, very niche games, don't expect a lot of support around them to make it work on Linux. That's not a Linux issue in and of itself. That's an issue of, if games don't have community, people don't really care about them for them to actually, you know, even convince people to go do tinkerings and stuff to make it work. There's a lot of old games that, you know, probably are more complex to get it working than, you know, that one. Like, I think World of Warcraft works on Linux. I mean, it has for a few years when I was last looked. I'm not a World of Warcraft person, but I know quite a few people that have been using Linux for it. Peacock. That was it. Peacock. Thank you. There's around 5K people playing right now. It used to be mega popular. Well, that ain't popular much anymore. Although it kind of says a lot that Tribes 2 got Linux support working pretty fine, but your game didn't, and my game's older and not as popular. I've played Tribes 2 on here a lot.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, so the next one is NVIDIA. Same concept, NVIDIA GPUs.
I'm thankful for having way too many projects and way too little time. This is one of them, a NVIDIA A4000 running on a Pi CM5, but you'll notice that there's no display output. We're working on that. Despite having no display output, it is giving full GPU acceleration.
Battle.net used to run on Pop! OS using L something Lutris.
Model into memory,
probably.
And benchmarks. And you can see that, you know, we have 16 gigs of VRAM, and it doesn't need much for this Llama 3B model. But
I was playing Overwatch a couple years ago when it came out, and Overwatch 2.
121 tokens per second. So pretty fast. And that whole setup is using, let's see, around 160 watts of power. That's using this patch for the open GPU kernel modules from NVIDIA, and this is from Mario Balanica. If I mispronounced that, I'm sorry about that. But there have been a couple efforts, one from Yang Haku and one from Mario here, that are putting...
I would like to eventually be
and other ARM systems,
a tinkerer full-time where I could just do all these kinds of projects, but
a board, like
I got a full-time job.
A Pi 5, a Pi 500 Plus, or even one of my other non-Pi boards like the Rock 5 Model B back there with the RK3588, and plug in pretty much any NVIDIA card, at least the newer ones. This is an A4000 and I'm not getting display output. That might be something with this particular card, or it might be something else.
Switching over to Pop! OS mainly due to your endorsement. Yeah, I like Pop! OS. Wait until Pop! OS 2404 at least comes out in the next few weeks.
Little setup here. There's just lots of things to test.
Don't get me wrong, 2204 is fine and I'm using it, but there's
this is
a few issues
or something like that
I'm running into just due to the age of certain things.
To test this card, which I've also been benchmarking against the Raspberry Pi. This is a 32 gig AI Pro or AI Pro R9700, something like that. Video on that is coming up too. And once I get this more stable,
man, I'd like to have money to drop on cards like that.
And test a bunch of them. I have too many. I have too many graphics cards. And in addition to all the
I'd like to have that problem.
Too many. There's NVIDIA for some reason, despite everything.
No, that is the current beta. It'll be stable in a few weeks.
This is the GB10, which I've been testing. And I know that some people ask, can it run Crysis? And the answer to that, I'll leave that for the video review. But actually, I'll tell you now. Yes, it runs Crysis actually incredibly well.
Interesting.
Crysis Remastered in Can It Run Crysis mode. Anyway, yeah, that video will be coming up too. And you're probably wondering how that's possible to run Crysis on there. Well, I showed it on this one in a short video on Level 2 Jeff. If you're not subscribed to Level 2 Jeff, go subscribe to Level 2 Jeff. I'll maybe remember.
I've always wanted one of those System 76 Ampere systems. But again, situation of, I gotta be careful with how I spend my money. Responsibilities. Being an adult with adult money is great, but being an adult with, you know, wanting to have so many hobbies is not so great.
Put a link to it or something. But yeah,
Good morning, Bengali.
Computer is the System 76 Thelio
Golly,
Astra,
I'm
the
running on my
fastest
Raspberry
ARM
Pi.
desktop computer on the planet. However, its CPU cores
Any
are
reason
not
you're
super
doing
fast.
that?
It's, you know, it's like
Proxmox versus
it's a little
Bear
faster
Debian.
than
That's
like
an apples and
Raspberry Pi
oranges
5 per
argument.
core, but it has 128
What
cores.
state
so
you living
you
in?
can kinda
I'm
smash
living
it
in
by
the
that
state
way.
of denial.
But it has a lot more memory. These GB10 super chip computers, or whatever they're called, that's marketing stuff. But they do have a pretty competent little SoC in it with a CPU that's equivalent almost to like an M2 or M3 Mac. So these are good CPU cores
Sup,
mixed with a really
Linux?
fast GPU, like a 4070
Linux,
series about.
however you say it.
I don't know. Anyway, the
Watch
heating
LTT
system
and they
has
had
just turned on,
Linux.
and I need to do
You
some
mean
more
Linus?
tests and wrap
Yeah,
things up
everyone
because
keeps
it's getting
telling me
to the
that,
end of the
but
day here. But
I don't really
quickly wanted
watch
to mention that this is
Linus
working
Tech
after
Tips.
This has been
I have really no
almost
interest
6
to.
years now of work trying to get any graphics card working on the Raspberry Pi, and now we have AMD
Funny
graphics
vampire.
cards working without a hitch. NVIDIA graphics cards working with, you know, a couple caveats right now, like I don't have a screen output. And then Intel cards. I don't have an Intel card sitting here. Sorry about that, but Intel cards working too.
You had one in the last
They have
video.
a couple glitches, but the Intel driver is there's
Linux
work
plus
to get
Lucas.
those patches
Gotcha.
put into the Linux kernel. This is just crazy. Like, but I think that one question I have now that everything is actually getting to be stable and kind of easy, which is weird for me. If I took a card like this and put it on a Pi, would it perform as well as or as efficient as it would in a system like this with an Intel Core Ultra processor?
It depends.
So that's a question that I'm working on.
So my hypothesis for that is it really depends on the workload. Because if you're talking about something like that just needs numbers thrown at it for crunching, like LLMs, even cryptocurrency, all that, you don't need that many. Like, it actually shocked a lot of people back in the days of when I built Bitcoin GPU monitors and all that. We would actually have them go through PCI Express 1X lanes back in the PCI Express 2.0 days. Because that's all you needed to do was just send data to it, and that was enough to satiate the GPU. But, yeah, look, the release date. One is older than the other. Either way,
and that's these are fun things. Now that I actually have them working, I can actually do things with them and measure them and say whether or not it's actually a good idea. It's always been a bad idea, but I am one to take a bad idea and see if you can get something good out of it. And right now, the good thing is that we have all three major brands of cards working. Most of the code changes are due to other people. This is not me doing these things. It's just me integrating stuff. And I rely a ton on the community of people who submit these patches and you know, debug them on their own, and then I can kind of test them on the Pi and give my feedback. But anyway, yeah, if you want more information, I'll put up a blog post if you want to replicate the setup, if you want to go further. I would love to see somebody get the display output working. I'm guessing it's some silly thing that I'm just missing here. But that's it. Until next time, I'm Jeff Kierling.
So the honest truth is...
So the best way to think about...
Hate how YouTube sometimes autoplays video. So the honest truth is, when it comes to this, my honest thoughts on this is that for a Raspberry Pi, it's not really that important. Now, if you were to take something like one of these gigabyte ARM servers, people don't know a lot that these actually exist oftentimes until I tell them. Oh, come on. No, I don't. It's not a gigabyte monitor I'm looking at. Gigabyte ARM server. Yeah, the Gigabyte Enterprise section. There we go. These guys. I'd love to get some of these guys over here. So these I can see being worthwhile, slapping those GPUs in for number crunching and stuff. Like, look at these. These are, like, behemoths. You got Ampere 1s in there. You can probably... I'm trying to see, where would... Does this have... Yeah, so it has PCI Express slots there. So you'd probably have to put a riser or something in. Those look like PCI Express slots. But as you can see, this is a pretty beefy server over here. Well, that's a 1U. You'd probably want some more space. So you'd probably want like a 2 or even a 4U. They don't have a 4U. But, yeah, these right here probably be nice. And these have Ampere M processors. You can have 12 channels of DDR5 memory. 12 channels. That's a lot of memory bandwidth over there. But yeah, it's basically the same board in a different form factor. You have dual power supplies in there. I mean, this is a beefy board. The other one that I'd actually like to, you know, get my hands on, now this is more of a workstation. Do they still make this? Okay, so it's something with my workstation here that's causing the SSH hangs. Interesting. Because I use PowerShell to SSH into the LLM server upstairs and whatever. By the way, if anyone's curious and wants System 76, they apparently have a sale going on right now. So, do with that what you will. So, in the workstations, do they still have... the Astra... Oh yeah, here it is, the Astra. 128 core Ampere Ultra, up to half a terabyte of memory, 40 terabytes of storage. Yeah, so like, this is a big boy. Or big girl. We don't discriminate. Now the interesting thing is, they actually don't have Pop! OS ship with this, which is System 76's own. So you can have an Ampere Ultra, 32 core, 64 core, 80 core, or all the way up to 128 cores. And of course, this is going to set you back a chunk. Now, throwing a nice GPU in these, that would actually make sense to me. Because if you're like trying to get like really high parallel performance processing, this would be what I'd probably be looking at. Oh, and it supports ECC memory. Nice. So, like, already there, you're looking at, like, 16 grand. 17 grand. You're drinking up all the water. I'm using, all my stuff with LLM, at least, and I'm shoving them in the basement. I've got a 5060 Ti and a, 3050. The 3050 was what used to be in this stream box over here, thrown into one box with new hardware. Part of the reason why I got the new motherboard for it was, well, I wanted to give a little bit more space between the GPUs. But if the hanging isn't actually due to that, but it's due to... Interesting. Alright. Anyway. How about Minis Forum? They're alright. I have a Minis Forum mini PC for the ham radio PC right now. It's okay, but I got like another box from another company, like $250 computer that I picked up, that has a Ryzen 5 5700U, so I have a little bit more oomph. I originally got it for a recording PC, but they have these, but these are all x86. Well, they have some ARM stuff. But see, like, I don't think all of these are really upgradable. And Minis Forum is all about having a mini PC. None of these is really like, oh, I want to upgrade this. Like, I think that's about as big as it gets, and that looks like a mini ITX. But yeah. Chief, give your LLM mineral water. No! I keep the bougie water to myself! We got the Okay, where did we go for the next video? Oh, yeah. So the next video was Discord had a problem. Apparently, Discord's got a problem that's getting even worse. Relating to CSAM.
Discord has a massive CP problem, and it's getting significantly worse. In fact,
I've been
things
saying
have
this for a
escalated
while.
so quickly and gotten so bad that just being on a completely normal Discord server puts you at risk of being exposed to CSAM content. But to explain how we got here, I want to walk you through the timeline. This is why I barely go to like that many Discord servers. Each stage of the timeline gets progressively worse and worse until we end up where we're at now, where you can just join a random Discord server and potentially be exposed to CSAM content. It's not even a matter of if you see it, it's when you see it. It is that
is effed up.
But first, let's start off with stage 0, how things were at the beginning. But there were Discord servers that would share CSAM content, but these were hidden in very like dark web forms. You would basically
kill it with
have to be
fire
a predator to find these servers. And they would look a little something like this. Now, this is not exactly the server. To find those, you genuinely have to be a predator.
Okay, I just want to put this out there. The fact that he's using light mode, in my mind, is just as disgusting as CSAM, okay?
But this is sort of what it was like.
Not
this is
really,
a Discord server
but I
called
have to
the
make a
Mega
joke.
Trading. Basically, predators on Discord will have a collection of CSAM content.
What the
and they will
hell?
host it on a website called Mega. This is like Google Drive, Dropbox, but Mega is encrypted.
It's always blown my mind that, like, people actually... Ugh. You know, no. Ew, no.
And since it's encrypted, predators take advantage of that. And you can see from this screenshot here, this person sent a whole bunch of links, and inside of those links, they contain folders, 69 gigabyte folders, 14 gigabyte folders, that just contain files and files of videos and pictures.
I know
of
it's
CSAM
out there,
content.
but
what
it's just
predators will do is they will find servers like this
shocking to see the
trade
size
their
of it, because that
they are
makes you
trying
know.
to expand their collection. These people are genuinely using Discord like LinkedIn for predators. Here's what I learned
encryption
about
bad.
B2B
I know
sales
you're
by
joking,
engaging with
Abby, but
predators. I'm going
you
to
and
get
I
sued
both
for this
know
joke.
that,
Now just keep in mind, these servers always existed, but they were hard to find.
Discord's
so
not
for you
encrypted,
as a normal
and
internet
Mega
user,
Upload
there was
doesn't.
no risk for you being exposed to this stuff. And that's how things were. But let's get into
And,
the
of course,
first stage
TikTok
of
is,
this horrible
So this is funny. TikTok restricted the live, not for this, but your live is not eligible for recommendation as restricted in search result because it redirects users to purchase products outside of TikTok. That's the reason, TikTok.
into Discord's ever-growing CSAM problem. But there are websites where you can list your Discord server and advertise it, and people can go on these websites and look for Discord servers to join. And one that everyone knows about is called Discord. Now, Discord
I didn't know
used
about
to
this.
be horrible. In fact, I Am Lucid, a YouTuber, had a video called Discord Has a CP Problem, which featured Discord and a whole bunch of horrible listings. In fact, Discord was still a problem after that video a year after that even I covered it in my own video.
What the hell?
Fortunately, Discord isn't as bad anymore. I did find this one Discord server, which was called Linkland. And considering the icon is of the Mega icon, you can put the pieces together. This was a Discord server that was sharing CSAM content. But good news, it got removed off Discord.
Good.
But
That's good.
Discord isn't the only website where you can search for Discord servers. In fact, there's a website called Discadia, but if you search for something as simple as 13-17, talking about an age range, you can see this is the first result on my screen. Gay Boys Club Gateway. And I quote, a gay hangout server for you and your friends to
I know
hang
this
out
stuff
in air quotes
exists.
and have
It's
fun.
just
no girls. 13 to 17, definitely not even spelt correctly. That's how you can tell they're f***ing teenagers, 18 plus. This is already bad, but it gets worse. There's two problems with this sort of thing. First, if you are just a normal Discord user and you go on a Discord listing website like Discadia, there is statistically a chance that you might find a Discord server that has CSAM content. But the second problem with this is the fact that these websites are indexed by Google. Now, since we're talking about literally CSAM content, content. I am going to change the example a little bit so I don't...
I just want to put this out there, and I'm pretty sure my mods understand this. If we ever find that crap on my server, immediately report it, and report it to the authorities. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. Straight to jail. Straight to jail. I think it's sad that you're used to this. Like, I know this exists. I'm not sheltered. I know this exists. I knew it was happening. I knew that Discord was a problem for a while for this, because you've heard me talk about this many times. We've talked about Roblox's issues with Schlep and how he got banned, and we've talked about how Discord is part of the gateway that they have, or the pipeline, where, God damn it, ads! Well, while you do that, I'm going to restart the TikTok stream, because, you know, TikTok just restricted me, because apparently I'm recommending people to buy products off-site. Which just, you know, kind of annoys me even more. That TikTok? Oh, CSAM? Okay. But products off of TikTok into redirecting you somewhere, even though I'm not telling people to buy things that can even be bought on TikTok. No, we can't have that. That's bad. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to restart the TikTok stream. Gotta restart this. Gotta frickin' get a new key. This is so annoying that TikTok makes you do this shiz. Oh, you know, we can, you know, redirect your stuff. No, no. Gotta frickin' do this all over again. Okay, so we got that going. Hooray. Okay. Are the ads over yet? Okay, the ads are over. But as I was saying, Vampire, number one, you're one of the mods. If we see this crap in my server, immediately report to Discord, to authorities, no ifs, no ands, no buts. You do not pass go. You do not collect $200 straight to jail. You know, but like you were saying, like, yes, you're not shocked by it. I know this stuff exists. I've done enough content talking about the unfortunate reality of it. I've unfortunately seen this working on my IT job. When I was doing a computer repair back when I was working at Staples, I came across some of that just doing a routine cleaning and tune-up for a customer. I had to, you know, we just tell them, hey, we're going to, open up some random files, make sure everything, is still working and all that. The one folder I happened to go into on their desktop that just had some pictures, which I thought was like a family album, was that stuff. Immediately went into my manager, I unlocked the computer, and I said, I am taking an hour-long lunch break. You're going to pay me for it and call the police. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I just saw some frickin' stuff. And they're like, oh. Yeah, I went through therapy just to unsee that stuff. Well, I mean, can't really unsee it, but you got my point. I was even a mod in a Discord where a bot was spamming a headless person and people having fun as like, ew. Like, don't get me wrong. I know this stuff exists. I know there are creeps like this out there. We've talked about how Schlep got banned from Roblox when he was going after predators on Roblox. We've talked about how there's a pipeline of basically predators finding people on Roblox and or Discord and then talking to them on Discord. And we've talked about how everyone wrongfully believes that encryption, we need to break encryption so that we can stop these predators. But as they're showing straight up, they're talking on Discord. They're using Mega Upload. None of the stuff is really encrypted. It's right out there in the open. Like I keep telling people, there's way worse things on ClearNet than there is on Darknet. Everyone just thinks, you know, what they can't access. Everyone has a fear of the unknown. And I do think that Discord does need to do some more proactive searching and everything. Look, we have now the ability to... there's literally a Roblox to Discord pipeline. If you play Roblox, you end up there. Well, yeah, you end up playing with Discord and all that, but in terms of the CSAM pipeline, absolutely there is a thing going on there. And what blows my mind, and this is the same problem I have with Telegram, because Telegram's not encrypted either. This is a lack of accountability for the things going on their infrastructure. In this day and age, where we have not just basic regex that, you know, can catch a lot of things, but we literally have LLMs that can go out and find keywords and things like that and start flagging it. And then you can also, the Microsoft has a CSAM database that you can actually hook into your system. It's not an actual database, it's a hashing system. That basically what they do, it's really interesting. I learned about how this works, is they don't hash every image individually. They hash quadrants, or, you know, they break it up in like 16 by 16 or 32 by 32 squares, and then they hash the different parts of the photo. So basically, if you alter the photo, it can still trace back to that. But yeah. What are we talking about right now? We're talking about the CP problem on Discord. I know, it's a heavy topic to come in on the middle of.
Jail, but I'm going to search for e-girl Discord server. And you can see that the first search result is Discord. And if you keep scrolling down, there's top.gg, Discadia. These websites are indexed by Google, so all that means is
Hold up. Was there a Christian mingle thing there?
These websites are indexed.
What the hell? Okay,
Google,
I'm just
so
sorry.
All that means
That
is that
caught me
if
off
a
guard.
predator here's the name of a Discord server like Mega Trading 9000 Gazillion, they could just type that into Google with Discord at the end of it and find the server. So at this point in the timeline, it's easier for predators to trade their CSAM collections because it's easier for them to just Google search for servers. But for you as a normal Discord user, if you're on one of these websites like Discadia, there is a chance that you can just be exposed to CSAM.
I've never heard of like Discadia or Discord or all this.
Result that I found.
Christian has a lot of. Oh yeah, I know
that was bad.
There's a big problem in the whole like
worse. In fact,
Christian
these next two
circle
stages
or whatever
that I'm going to talk
you wanna
about on the timeline aren't due to predators. These problems are escalated because of teenagers themselves. Teenagers have made the problem worse.
Yeah, teenagers are horrible.
Stage 2 comm servers. Now, just to make it clear, this is like a top-level summary and is not exhaustive at all. But if you don't know what the Discord comm is, let me give you an urban dictionary.
I didn't even know this was a thing.
They do a better job than I can.
Chat, am I old? Am I no longer hip? Am I that dude from the meme? Like, am I this guy? Hold on. Am I this guy? Have I officially, like, reached this stage of my life?
COM is short for community. COM refers to communities that revolve around
I don't know what 6'7" means. I know that's the point. I don't think I can 6'7" someone.
From the age ranges of 14 to 17 who would rather scam,
I don't know what it is either.
and engage in destructive behaviors instead of getting a real job. Sorry, I should probably be censoring that. That's a slur. Or skill. They are primarily made up of script kiddies and aggregate on games like Roblox, Minecraft, and VR chat because real life socialization is scary. Basically, these guys are chronically online losers, and that's coming from me. I am already a loser, so these guys are really bad. But as I was researching the CSAM problem, there was an article by Childlight who talked about how the CSAM economy is growing, and I want to point out something they said.
So those are basically the same people that happen to be using GPT as their girlfriend or boyfriend and really need to go touch grass. Like, if we have to rank them, like, in terms of, like, Arch users, if Arch users already need to go touch grass, calm or chronically online morons like need a super touch grass, okay?
teenagers specifically. They said, worryingly, this culture of collection, referring to predators, is also appearing in the behavior of children with one another. In a joint project conducted in the United Kingdom, female youth described feeling pressured to send images, while male youth felt pressure to collect and distribute those images to achieve higher social value. So when you have these comm kiddos or Discord e-gangsters,
you know, I didn't really have to think about this when I was growing up, because
they will distribute these images to achieve.
It wasn't that easy to send images like that when we were kids.
Comm, because if you go on a Discord
Super
comm
user
server,
do
50%
touch grass.
of it are people talking about their toxic relationships and leaking CSAM content, and the other 50% are these dudes talking about how they're so rich, fuck you, you're a poron, and they're gonna go, and I quote, band for band. But they have all this fraud money, and they'll usually spend it on like luxury watches and goods to, again, achieve higher social value, but with that fraud money, they will also pay e-girls for nude photos to, again, get higher social value. And since teenage youth felt pressure to collect and distribute the...
I am so glad I am no longer a stupid kid anymore. Apologies to all the kids out there, but I hate to tell you this, and you're going to understand when you get older. You're going to look back at your teenage years and just basically go like, God, I was a frickin' moron. I was a late bloomer, so can't relate. Yeah. I mean, like, I can okay, I'm not saying this is okay, but I can understand where this came about. Because look, like, when I was younger, it was like, hey, I'm going to go get Playboy. My mom actually gave me a subscription to Playboy as my, bar mitzvah gift when I was 13 to 18 years old. But my mom was also a sexual education teacher. She understood this was a natural thing. But I never really, I guess it's because technology was not quite there. We had image texting, but we were using like Nokia 3310s where your images were like blocky and pixelated. Like the iPhone, the original iPhone didn't come out till like towards the end of high school for me. So this was not really a thing. Like, we used to, oh, yeah, ASCII. Remember Goatsy? Abby? Goatsy? But, like, we used to actually, this is so hard for people to understand. Gave you, now that I put that in your mind, Abby. But, like, it's so hard to make kids these days understand that, yes, we used to use the internet to IM friends, go on MySpace before Facebook. I mean, eventually became Facebook, and talk about where we're going to parties and everything. But we'd get on AOL Instant Messenger to find out where the party's at, send the MySpace information, and then we would get off our computer. We may have a cell phone so that we could, at most call each other, but that was like a Nokia 3310, and y'all may remember this if you're this old. Don't call me till after 9. That's when my free minutes come in. Okay? That was a whole thing. And then Sprint came in and it was eventually like, well, you can call after 7. I'm like, oh my God! Yeah. Anyway, I kind of miss those days where we could actually unplug. And I kind of feel bad for the current generation of kids because they're chronically online that I cannot imagine how that rots your brain. Because even nerds like us, we'd have to go out and meet people. Like, even the nerdiest nerd would still get online, talk to their friends, then meet up for Dungeons and Dragons in person. You get what I mean? You think apps being always online is intrusive? Absolutely! I think it's wonderful that a lot of Gen Z people right now are rediscovering what we had in the 90s where they're unplugging. Like, remember, I came out with the video talking about the Tangara and the dedicated iPod that I had, and people were like, well, why don't you just get an Android phone? And I'm like, I don't think you understand. When I want to listen to music, I want the ability to unplug from the internet. I don't want a device that even allows me the temptation to go on the internet. I want to put my MP3 player on, put it on lock, shove it in my pocket, go work out, go mow the lawn, go do something, unplug. Now everyone gets anxious if you're too far away from the internet or if you're too far away from just your phone. I remember one of my nieces freaked out because she knew it was my day off. No, it was a niece. No, it was a cousin. Not my nieces. One of my cousins. She freaked out because it was my day off and couldn't get a hold of me for like 4 or 5 hours. And she's like, I couldn't get a hold of you for like 4 or 5 hours. I thought something happened to you. And I'm like, yeah, I went hiking with my dog purposely where I don't have cell signal. We used to have times where we could sit down and get away and nobody could call you. I remember when, growing up, hey, Mom, I'm going over to so-and-so's house. Cool. Call me when you get there. You'd go to that friend's house. You'd get on the phone, the landline, or maybe the cordless phone, call your call your mom and say, hey, I'm over here. Everything's cool. And then you go out and play street hockey. Are we turning into boomers? There were some things the boomers got right, but there were very, 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 very few things.
Predators will pretend to be teenagers to collect those images
what the hell?
Again, increase their collection. In fact, I even made a video about how one of these comm servers were owned by a predator. Like, this actually happens. I'm not talking out of my ass. But with these comm servers, it has also resulted in another problem. Sellers. With those e-gangster servers, you had those e-guys giving e-money to their e-girls to be their e-girlfriend to send them e-nude photos. And what ended up happening is that teenage girls realized that this could be a job. In fact, here's a screenshot.
Oh, good God, no!
Profile. I have censored everything for obvious reasons. But you can see their pronouns are she and her. And in their
street hockey. I should get a hot now.
14.
And
an
now
invite link
stick.
to a Discord server, and it says only
Street hockey was the
DM
shit.
if buyer or
did it on
friend.
rollerblades.
What girls have realized is that instead of having their e-relationship with their comboy, instead they can just sell photos to anyone that pays for it. And I want to point out that you might think the problem is just girls, but I have been sent by a viewer this person here, and the name behind this was a dude's name, and they said, I'm 15 and mostly a bottom. I sell pictures. I'll basically do almost anything intercourse DLC wise, but I
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
Like, okay, let me put it this way. I'm not ethically opposed to the whole OnlyFans culture where adults, consenting adults, let me remind you, adults do whatever they want with their bodies. Do I agree with that? No. But the fact that it's now become so prevalent that, like, you literally have kids going around thinking that this is okay. Yeah, we're cooked.
have some exceptions, and I don't want to read this. And just when I thought I hated myself by reading this, he continues on by saying, please send me unsolicited pics and threats. Sometimes I genuinely hate myself and the internet and just what everything has.
I'd hate myself too when that happens. I know I'm pausing a lot. And you know, even when you're talking about consenting adults, okay, I want to make this very clear. And I've said this before on stream. The only dick pic I send is this. The South African dick. Okay? All right? The only other thing I might send, because some other people do this, you might send a tricky dick pic. Even in a consulting adult relationship, that's the only thing I send. What did I just join in on? We're watching a video about how bad Discord's gotten with certain things, and realizing I hate society and this planet and the whole internet. Wasn't there a new law that made 13-year-old adults What? Get accused of distribution or something like that? Was that what you were gonna say in that? Yeah, there's something like that. I know.
You have people fighting to fix the problem, and then you have teenagers who will sell photos of themselves, making the problem worse, fueling the whole entire problem because they want easy money. And I have had some people that have sold pictures in the past reach out to me and explain how they deeply regretted it. Now, the problem is that these girls or boys that are selling photos, they go everywhere on Discord. They are like a lethal combo of a car salesman being slimy and a Jehovah's Witness going to every doorstep on planet Earth. I have seen on
that
more
is
than one
an
occasion
interesting combo.
These e-girl sellers putting in an advertisement in a Discord channel, like straight up. It could be about like Skibbity Toilet or something. They'll drop, "I'm selling photos of myself. Check my bio." And that's how this problem is getting worse. Like taking a step back, before to see any sort of CSAM content, you had to look for it yourself. Now it's starting to be advertised to you. And for the Discord predator,
what makes me worry is why is Discord not actually like, because look, I don't go looking for this stuff. I did not know how prevalent this stuff was. I knew it existed, but if it's this bad, Discord's really dropping the ball. Like, I know Roblox is dropping the ball, but Discord is definitely dropping the ball. No, the law that made 13-year-old age... Ew. But yeah, I think there was something like that. Yeah, 13 years old is not old enough to give a consent. I'm even, like, starting to, like, be like, I don't even know if 16's even old enough to give consent. Hell, I'm at the point right now where if you're younger than 25, I don't even want to date you. You are still a kid to me at 18. You may be able to vote. You may be able to go buy a long gun in many states. But to me, you're still a kid. Until you can rent a car without repercussions, don't come talk to me about romance.
this is like Amazon for them. They can just shop around and buy whatever the hell they want. But the predators have taken things a step further. Just
oh, God!
Have those
it gets worse!
Accounts, predators have done the exact same thing. Well, you can see that this account here says, hit me up. And when you click on the Discord account,
you just reminded me of
trading no limit mega links, 24/7 mega link trade, DMs always open. Please don't do this, but my viewer for some reason decided to DM them. What exactly are you selling? And this person said that they're just trading megas for people. What's a mega? It's just files with videos and pics you can share
all
with
these
others.
people in chat, straight to jail.
Science, I'd want to buy one. How much would that cost? $200 for 500 gigabytes.
Holy shit. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this video because, like, 500 gigabytes. Do you know how much that is? Us to jail. No, not you to jail. These people in chat. That chat there on Discord. That one, not our Discord. Our Discord's cool. This one, the one in the video. All these people in the video. Straight to jail. I have a Discord strike because I was a mod and someone posted a X-vid between two adults. Got the server nuked. Granted, it was a revenge thing where a trans female piped down a... Yeah. 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 I think we're gonna go find another video, because I was like, okay, this is gonna be like an update on how bad the situation is, and, you know, F me for being optimistic about the world. Okay, so we're gonna go on and find the next video in this. You think that's bad? I know someone that found 1 TB HD max. Ugh. Ugh. And they found that just happened during a... Ugh. What's the video name? The video name was from No Text to Speech. Discord's most disgusting problem is getting worse. That was the title. I do like their channel, No Text to Speech. Don't get me wrong. That was just a bit much. Yeah, like, I don't understand this because, like, how does that go against, and what my belief is the natural desire to want to protect children? Like, I see a kid, I just am like, I want to be, like, protective of that. Like, I got nieces that are, like, I think the oldest one's, like, 12, going on 13. She's still a little kid to me. And all I can think of is, I want to just educate you on all the things so you don't end up being effed over by bad people. Yeah, that was definitely a bit much. You know, like, but, you know, I don't understand that mentality. Like I said, in doing my IT job, I happened to repair a computer and I came across that stuff just on one image, and that already threw me through a loop that I went to therapy about that and had to report it to the police, and that was a whole thing. How F do you have to be to actually... Let's move on. I think the line of, "oh, that cute" versus that is hot got crossed into the brain somewhere. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. If I'm dating a woman, 25 or older, and she dresses like a schoolgirl, okay, I'm game. Cheerleader, okay, I'm game. You know, any of that, that's fine. But when you're younger than that, I'm like, nope, not interested. You're still too young. You are still a child. Anyway.
For most people, a car is purely functional. They use it to get to work, to pick up the kids from school, or to do the groceries. However, every once in a while, something a little different hits the market. A car which almost...
So we're talking about how the Cybertruck has been a $10 billion flop.
I mean, just look at it. It's definitely something. And when it was first announced, literally millions of people scrambled to put down a deposit and secure one. But if we skip to today, things look a whole lot different. You're more likely to see Cybertrucks piling up on the lot of a Tesla dealership than you are to see one on the roads. The few that have been sold...
Okay, the temptation for me to just, like, run across and, like, hop from car to car to car to car to car, just, like, that, what do you call it? The, not the dark thoughts. I mean, it's on that. But you get what I mean.
On the lot of a Tesla dealership than you are to see.
They look like trash cans. I'm not even joking. They do.
Face recall after recall for all sorts of issues. And Tesla,
Parkour.
which
There
is
you go.
projected to sell 250,000 of these every year, has ended up selling just 16,000.
Holy! I did not realize there were that few.
That's over 90% fewer than projected. Just looking at this situation from the outside already paints a pretty rough picture. But if we peel back the curtain and look at the internals of Tesla, things begin to look even more dire. Not only are Tesla executives jumping ship at record speed, but the company is also resorting to some very...
I live in LA and there's tons of them out here. Every time I see one, my day is ruined.
A little bit better than reality. And they're doing this while trying to pivot and be all about AI and robotics.
Oh, I've seen them IRL. They are ugly.
The next big thing. I think the Cybertruck is a perfect metaphor for the story of the company more broadly over the last decade. So let's try and figure out what's really going on here. Why the Cybertruck failed so spectacularly, and the very dodgy cover-ups happening inside Tesla.
What I don't understand is, why did Elon focus so much on this instead of the Tesla Roadster, something people actually wanted? The Roadster was actually a cool car.
Around here, when Elon
apparently
had already
pre-sold that for a while, but no.
To get up to all of the activities that we've now come to expect from him. But its history goes back a while further. The Cybertruck was first unveiled in 2019 at a Tesla event. It rolled on stage looking like it hadn't quite finished rendering yet, and within minutes the grand promises started to flow. The truck would feature an ultra-hard stainless steel exoskeleton, the same stuff that they use in the SpaceX Starship. It would have over 500 miles of range, it would be bulletproof, and of course, who can forget, the truck would feature special armor glass on the windows that would be completely impenetrable.
Oh yeah, didn't you like smash it in the demo?
Tested live on stage.
I see one quite frequently because it's in my town.
God. Well,
Maybe that was a little too hard.
And after this
what is
presentation,
Rust?
the promises didn't stop. At one point, Elon claimed the Cybertruck would be able to swim and would even be waterproof enough to cross rivers.
It can't even go through a car wash!
But after years of taking pre-orders and promising the world in return, what Tesla ended up actually
It does look like it came out of Super
vastly
Mario. No.
different.
Wait. I got one better for you. Hold on. Hold on. This is what it reminds me of. I had to remember what the game was. Okay? This was a game from the 1980s called Battlezone. All right? This is exactly what the Cybertruck reminded me of. Okay? This is what it looks like. Tell me I'm wrong, chat. Make me feel old. I am old!
The $39,000 promised price tag grew to over $60,000. The 500 miles of range became 320. The promise that
God!
it could float or even swim was put to the
Hold on.
test.
Let's look at these stats. He promised a 2021 release, was out 2 years later. Promised 14,000 tow capacity. It can only do 11,000. If we remember, excuse me, it also couldn't handle the stress that well. I think it was Jerry Rig Everything went through and showed that. They said it has an exoskeleton design. We now have no exoskeleton design, which is part of the reason why it's basically just a floating tin can. It was promised to be about $40,000, and we got $60,000. Promised 500 miles of range, and we got 320.
The promise that it could float or even swim was put to the test with predictably hilarious results. Within weeks of release, the issues just started rolling in. The accelerator pedal could get stuck down if you weren't careful. The panels of the car could literally fall off on the highway, and the windscreen wiper could randomly fail on you, which in retrospect maybe isn't the biggest problem in the world.
You know what's even funnier about the whole Tesla Cybertruck? Do any of you know a Cybertruck owner? Because I do. And oh my God, they make every excuse in the book for this damn truck. They do. The copium is real. I had a friend that literally was ready to unfriend me because I kept calling it a garbage can. And I'm like, dude, have you been in the car scene much? Because if you haven't, dude, what is Chevy versus Ford? Like, people hate on cars all the time. Do you know the amount of hate a PT Cruiser got? What did it look like again? It looked like Battlezone 1980, which was an arcade game on the Atari 2600. You know, like this. Like the graphics from 1980. That's what it looked like, the Cybertruck.
The vehicle actually
My
ended
uncle
up
had a
being
PT
outright
Cruiser.
banned
He's
in
dead now.
major
Coincidence? I
markets.
think not.
And to
No,
this
that is
day,
not a
you still can't
coincidence.
buy one if you live in the UK.
Your
in
uncle should have
Australia,
never bought a
or
PT
in the
Cruiser.
EU
He'd still be alive.
because they're too dangerous. And in the
Case
interim,
closed.
competitors stepped in with better, cheaper options. Ford, Chevy, and BYD all sell EV trucks that look and perform much more similarly to what you'd expect.
I want a
And today,
BYD
you don't
or
really hear
Xiaomi
peep from
truck.
The people who promise
China's really been doing good with EVs.
That this here would be the future of driving. And on the inside of Tesla, things aren't much better. Basically, all faith has been lost in this project. The lead of the entire Cybertruck program recently quit, which is hardly a show of confidence in the product's future.
Shit looks like Laura
The program
Christie's.
lead for the Model Y also quit. Their vice president of sales for North America left the company in July, and its senior vice president of energy engineering.
Holy
also
crap,
left
they
in
all
2024.
left this
These are all
year?
people who had like front row seats to Tesla's financial and production data and have been committed to these projects for years now. But what if I told you that despite this, things are even worse than they seem, and Tesla has been resorting to what I can only describe as desperation tactics / maybe kind of fraudulent behavior to flog what's left of their Cybertruck inventory off of their books. Tesla promised the Cybertruck would be indestructible, unstoppable, and unbreakable. But if you've seen the headlines, it's debatable how true these things actually are. The internet is kind of the same. It's shiny on the outside, but it's a lot more chaotic underneath the surface. Scams and digital thefts are on the rise across the web now, and even free Wi-Fi networks can be used to compromise your personal
which service is he gonna
Since moving aboard last year, I realized I was suddenly unable to access
delete
a bunch of my essential accounts, as well as a few of my favorite streaming services, which was a problem that I'd never really encountered before. That's why I decided to partner with NordVPN.
God damn it!
Thanks to NordVPN, all it takes...
I can save money now and everyone can eat. Get money in the daytime, even count it when I sleep. Wake up to getting bread, bitch, I do this for the streets. ADHD.
Thank you for that sub over there, Elite Cold. Thank you for that. But yeah, NordVPN. No! 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 I refuse. No! No! Hell no! 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 Bad VPN, bad. See, at least chat knows. No hate to this creator whatsoever. They probably don't know much better. But those who know, know. In all fairness, NordVPN has done some stuff to improve things, but like Proton and Molvad are still S tier in my book.
The most generous offer they have, money back guarantee. The internet the way to try it out if you're interested. Okay, so to properly explain what I mean, I think we need to first take a look at
absolutely no hate to this creator.
Back in 2022, Elon acquired Twitter for a whopping $44 billion. And for some reason...
And if anyone wants to get Proton, by the way, links in bio. I am affiliated with Proton, so we'll give that disclaimer there. Help support the channel.
Restore free speech on the internet. And it may well
but I genuinely have not liked NordVPN even before I was affiliated with Proton, just to make it clear.
Elon, quite famously, tried extremely hard to back out of this deal while it was in progress because the platform allegedly had too many bots.
No. We don't hate on this creator.
Sounds pretty ludicrous.
His video's good.
The deal only went through because a judge forced him to follow through. And
oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Elon wrote
but borrowed funds from
a check his mouth
nearly 100 investors
could cash with tons of debt.
Like the Saudi royal family, the co-founder of Palantir, and Diddy. So,
I forgot Diddy was in on X. How much baby oil did Elon Musk have to use to get this deal going? Was it 1 Costco pallet or 2?
But anyways, since that purchase, Elon's extracurricular activities kind of torched any chance of Twitter making a profit in the near term. I won't go through all of the detail, but the main points are that he sued his advertisers.
And to be clear, Costco doesn't sell baby oil.
And then launched Grok, which proceeded to refer to itself as
one tub.
Not great for business. And at its lowest point, Twitter was estimated to have lost over 70% of its value since the takeover, according to Fidelity, which was a fund that had...
Yeah, because he killed the entire brand value.
So, in an
Twitter was this ubiquitous brand, and he literally X'd the value out.
He'd loaned money from to buy Twitter. He engaged in a little bit of a weird deal. Another one of his businesses, XAI, bought out Twitter, but they didn't buy it with cash. Instead, XAI created these new shares out of thin air. They then declared those shares to be worth 45 billion and used the shares to buy Twitter. Anyone who was once holding Twitter shares had them swapped for XAI shares, essentially letting investors trade their devalued Twitter shares for much more valuable XAI shares.
Valuable on paper.
Any actual cash. And since
they're not actually valuable
companies, he could effectively decide what the exchange rate would be. Conveniently, he picked a valuation of $45 billion, a tiny bit more than Elon and co had originally paid. And this kind of financial engineering, where you move money in circles and somehow end up ahead, is a favorite strategy of Elon's. He does this
it's circular financing.
In 2016, Tesla acquired SolarCity, a company that was operated by him, his brother, and his cousins for $2.6 billion. SpaceX has invested billions into XAI and therefore into Twitter. And much more recently, the Cybertruck has been included in a slightly dumber version of these circular financing strategies. Obviously,
really?
It's pretty clear at this point that nobody really wants a Cybertruck, but it's not like you can just stop an assembly.
It's not true. I want to stick a TNT at it. Because I think it'd be fun to watch it blow up. Look, that's not just a complete hate on the, thing. I would also do the same thing to a Prius. Okay? I'm an equal opportunity hater, or equal opportunity exploder, shall we say. Also, just for fairness sake, I would totally do the same thing to a Ricoh or a Xerox printer with a shotgun.
When you're a multi-billion-dollar car manufacturer, you've got projections and obligations, and people on the
Someone did that to a Cybertruck on New Year's at a Trump hotel.
And in this case, it's resulted in Tesla
I forgot about that.
Space to store all of these extra cars.
Wait, didn't that actually get set on fire on accident, or am I thinking of a different incident? Either way,
parking lot because they have nowhere else to put them. But
wait, what? Hold up.
Have been packed to store all of these extra cars, and causing scenes like this in Michigan, where Cybertrucks have been piling up inside a disused parking lot because they have nowhere else to put them. But it's not all bad.
Oh, okay? God, I forgot about that.
Tesla has actually had a massive stroke of luck lately.
The only reason I could ever think of buying a Cybertruck is to make it look as obnoxious and goofy as possible.
Interested in taking
I don't think you have to do much more to achieve that.
SpaceX and XAI. In the last few months of 2025,
you've never witnessed a Prius driver?
Delivery of hundreds of Cybertrucks.
Oh, drive well.
Multiple Texas bases, and truckloads of them have also been
good drivers and Prius owner,
and they're expected to.
They are mutually exclusive things.
Given how few of these things get sold every year, this actually represents a decent chunk of their total Cybertruck sales. Now, a lead engineer on the Cybertruck project claims...
No. Wrap it with Nyan Cat. That would be better. I would come and swap a Cybertruck. You know what? I'll allow it.
That this was always part of the dream when they were designing the vehicle, but I will let you decide if you believe that. I, for one, want to propose an alternative theory. Because there's the first layer of explanation, right? Which is that Tesla is just trying to boost sales, so they're selling cars to other Elon Musk companies. But I think it actually goes a little deeper than that. And I believe there's a really good reason why we're seeing this happen now specifically, of all times. Now, if you've ever had the pleasure of talking to a real deep Tesla lover, there's like an 80% chance that they pull out this infamous line: Tesla isn't a car company, it's a technology company. And I mean, if you look at the car
yeah, I hear that bullshit all the fucking time.
But I don't think this is what people mean. What people actually mean is that making cars is an easy method to develop
maybe some racing stripes and flames. Because you know, if you put flames on anything, it goes faster.
Value of the company.
That's why old people put flames on canes sometimes.
In the case of Tesla, I do agree that they're not necessarily a car company, but I don't think it's because Optimus robots are going to be doing like surgery, but rather because if you take a look at their financials over the last few years, you start to notice quite rapidly that the car part of the business has for a while now not been one of their fastest growing business sectors. In fact, if you just scratch underneath the surface, you quickly notice how much of the money that Tesla makes is actually just from government welfare schemes.
Right, paint it red, go faster. Yeah.
Until this year, one of their fastest growing market segments was just selling carbon credits to other car makers.
I've talked about this actually too. They make most of their money through carbon credits, or at least that's what keeps them afloat.
Cars. And those credits end up being bought by automakers that exceed the government's emission limits, as an alternative to them paying a fine. The idea is that environmentally friendly automakers get a
Diddy is watching and knows where you are and have the GPS symbol next to his face.
It's basically free money for Tesla, and it's become a really important part of their business to the tune of billions of dollars. It was estimated last year that around 40% of their profit came from the sale of these carbon credits. But that has been changing rapidly. In case you haven't noticed, the current administration in the US isn't exactly all in on the electric vehicle thing anymore. As well as scrapping all of these carbon credit programs, they've also scrapped a whole load of other nifty little benefits.
To be honest, I've never been a fan of the carbon credit thing. It never made sense to me.
Get a $7,500 discount on electric vehicles through a federal program. That program was approaching the end of its life and actually created a spike in Tesla sales for the third quarter that made it look like the company was recovering. But it isn't. And it's not just individual buyers who can take advantage of this kind of deal. In 2022, the US government also created the Commercial Clean Vehicle Credit. Any business that bought an eligible electric vehicle could get a tax credit of up to $40,000 per vehicle bought. This credit is one of the ones that was scrapped by the current administration, who created a deadline of September 30th, 2025 to claim it.
Oh, damn.
Suspiciously close to the time when Cybertrucks started showing up at other Elon Musk companies. This credit also includes a provision which states that if you pay a deposit before the deadline, you can claim the tax break even if you haven't actually received the car yet. And I think that's what's going on here. SpaceX and XAI are buying these Cybertrucks both to boost the Tesla sales, but also to claim a little extra tax break before the deadline runs out. The money itself is just moving in circles from one Elon Musk company to
Wait, is the TikTok chat not coming through? Hold on. Oh, damn, it's not. Hold on. TikTok was shut down. Yeah. Make you feel the same way. Is that why lithium flames have lost all respect for Elon? He's complicit in Trump's plans. Yeah, I don't know why you actually had respect for him, because, I've kind of always seen him as a grifter for as long as I can remember. Okay, now my chat should be working a little bit better. Let's see, hold on. Teased. Okay, yeah, it's all working.
To another. And yet, somehow he ends up with millions of dollars in tax savings without any obligation to actually deliver the cars anytime soon, since he's paid a deposit to himself. It creates millions of dollars of tax savings, makes the Cybertruck sales look marginally less dismal, and very little actual business has to take place. And it really fits in line with the same circular
School, the professor just idolizes people. I remember that clearly. Oh, yeah.
With Tesla, SpaceX, and XAI. Elon has been incentivized now more than ever to find ways to boost sales, especially since his $1 trillion pay package will require him to sell far more cars than ever before. And I wouldn't be surprised if they find increasingly creative ways to pad the stats in a more significant manner. For
if
years
a quiz
now,
is quizzical, then what is a test?
Huge orders from each other and bailing each other out. SpaceX has spent millions every year on Tesla products, and his companies acquire each other all the time. To be clear, I'm not saying all of this activity is fraudulent. Tesla actually makes electronics, and some of those will be useful in a rocket. But I would love to hear the case that the Tesla Cybertruck is the single best vehicle for for building a spaceship, especially when seemingly absolutely nobody else wants one. And we're not seeing them roll up on NASA launch sites anytime soon. He's hardly the only person engaging in these bizarre circular funding tactics. I mean, if you want to look at the boss mode version of this, just check out OpenAI. It's crazy. Yeah. It's people moving trillions of dollars in elaborate circles to each other to convince everyone else in the public that they're somehow going to make loads of money. I feel like there's a phrase for that. But yes, that doesn't make it any better when Elon does it.
I call it Enroning.
It's clear that the Cybertruck has been a bit of a disaster from the jump, and it's officially joining the graveyard of Elon promises that have never materialized, along with the Tesla Roadster, the Hyperloop, full self-driving, and a dozen other things.
I forgot about the Hyperloop.
Tesla, at the end of the day, has alienated a lot of people who would have been their prime demographic, and even relatively neutral people would prefer to avoid the association when possible. And it's clearly not panned out super well for the company. The real state of the company is pretty rough if you just look at headline figures. And
yeah, he's alienated a lot of the people that actually would have been his number one buyers because
extensive massaging to
MAGA people
as good as possible.
Are not your EV
this has
buyers.
Kind of always been the case for Tesla, which has relied for
the majority of them
effectively corporate welfare
are definitely, you know, more towards the gas.
But even that wasn't enough to
diesel-loving side of things.
Here's the thing, right? Tesla knows this, which is why they're desperately trying to pivot the narrative away from cars entirely. Now it's all about robotics and AI. The Optimus robot is supposedly the next big thing, and Tesla is claiming even more vigorously today that it's actually just an AI company that happens to make cars. When one moonshot project fails to ever materialize, you just promise an even bigger one to keep people distracted. The Tesla Cybertruck was supposed to revolutionize what we knew about transportation, and now that it's flopped, suddenly the story is that human robots are now going to revolutionize everything else.
I think people are picking up that the robot is BS.
All while the insiders are either jumping ship or flogging all of their shares onto the public. And in the grand scheme of things, you could say that a few thousand Cybertrucks isn't the end of the world, and it won't determine the future of the entire company. But I think it fits into a pattern of behavior that we've seen.
I need my lifted F-150 with laser lights to go to Costco and own the bike riding libs by charcoal rolling.
What do I know? Maybe they're really
coal rolling.
Tesla is selling
rolling coal
Optimus bots by 20.
And they don't go to Costco.
Those bots will solve
no.
overnight. I am more than happy to be.
They're Sam's Club's buyers. Doesn't they have that whole issue because a lot of people were supporting Costco? Because Costco was standing for, what was it, DEI?
So one...
I remember that a while ago. But yeah. Next video we have from Gamers Nexus about how GPU prices are crashing. Finally. But of course your RAM prices are going up. I'm far left leaning, but I still love my diesel, but I'm also trying to make it as fuel efficient as possible. Ram 2500 is getting 24 to 26 miles per gallon, no emissions. I go to Sam's because no Costco near me. Fair enough. Have you also considered, look, don't get me wrong, I love diesel. Diesel can actually be one of the most environmentally friendly fuels because of the ways that it operates. Like, you can use biodiesel. Have you ever checked to see if you can run biodiesel in your car? I think the most you might need to do is swap out some of the fuel lines and stuff. But yeah, you can totally like get like oil fryer grease and stuff like that, filter it out like plain old sieves and filters, and then actually run your diesel off of that. And bonus points, your exhaust might smell like French fries. I do change my deep fryer every 4 days. There you go. Seriously, look into it. See if it's a viable option for you. That might be a way to completely replace or even offset your current diesel fuel usage. Now, from my understanding, when I was playing around with it with a friend, it wasn't as economically it wasn't as economical as going to the gas station in terms of like how far you would get per gallon. But you're talking about something that you would already be throwing out for trash. So I don't see the issue there.
Flux all year, but it's finally started to look good right when everything else started to look really bad. And unfortunately, the stuff that looks really bad is also in GPUs, and that's memory. The new rumor is that NVIDIA will no longer bundle memory with GPUs, meaning partners will be on their own to source their own memory inventory, and that'll almost definitely result in worse pricing for board partners, ending up with more of an hefty advantage, while also embracing the memory supply impact on VRAM pricing. Now, just to be clear, that doesn't mean that NVIDIA is going to start shipping 0 gigabyte GPUs, but of course, that is their ultimate goal. Now, part of this is because of NVIDIA's push for AI and the, what was it that Jensen got excited about again with AI?
We're going to be rich.
That's right, the being rich part, the $5 trillion company. We have a separate video up, though, covering the memory side of the business.
Jetty to get like 50 miles per gallon in a car.
On this, which will impact GPU prices.
No, they're still just as bad with emissions. It was just when you would fire them in a test, it would change the
based on the data, people still aren't buying 8 gigabyte GPUs.
The processor or something like that.
Higher-end cards are still the worst examples of average price and average percent increase over MSRP. Pricing and availability on the GPU market have noticeably improved since we last collected the data in early June. Instead of only 13 current-gen GPU models available for MSRP, there are now 58 listings in stock at MSRP. And the number of total in-stock listings increased from 135 to 171. So far, these are good things. Prices have also improved, with average price for in-stock listings decreasing for nearly every current-gen GPU. The 5090 was also the only GPU not available for MSRP. It was also the only GPU that increased in average price since we collected them last.
Yeah, I would like to get a 5090 for LLM processing, but oh my god, they're expensive.
The market segment inevitably leads to consequences for consumers. GPU pricing's looking a little better.
Don't want to deal with death fluid. Oh yeah.
How long that's going to last at this point, but anyway, we looked at this stuff when we did our fake MSRPs video earlier this year, talking mostly about the 9070 XT and the 9070 and how the MSRP was fake. And then we also talked again in June about the low sales of the 8 gigabyte cards. So for this one, we're going to go back through pretty much everything at a top level, and then we do have
there's really no point in getting an 8 gig modern gen card. Even I went for 5060 Ti for my LLM server.
Do a follow-up on The deepest.
I have 8 gigs on my 3070, and my next card I want is a 5070 Ti.
Because their MSRP at launch was absolute fucking bullshit. And we can see today just how much that stayed true until recently. So let's get into some of the data. Before that, this video is brought to you by Haven and their new BF360 Flow case. The Haven BF360 Flow is a high airflow case.
That is a nice looking case.
Performance, with the model that includes fans using two 180mm front intake fans at 40mm thick. In
I don't know if I'd
combination
buy
with
a new
the
case.
120mm rear exhaust fan.
I like
In our
this
previous
case.
testing of the case,
I got
we found its
the
thermal performance to be
neon in
among
there.
the best performers on our
I'll probably
chart.
just clean
The
this out when I
BF360
rebuild
uses
it.
a scooped shroud near the GPU that our smoke testing found deflects the air into the leftmost GPU
that's
fan
nice.
for more targeted GPU intake. It also
like
has
that.
marked cable management channels, rubber grommets on most metal contact points, and
Okay,
what
that's
we
nice.
think is overall good build quality. Learn more about the Haven BF360 Flow at the link in the description below. All right,
That's
so
a
we're
pretty nice
revisiting
case.
prices in the GPU market. We collected a few data points over the last few months to check in. The most recent data point was just before Thanksgiving, which is just before, to the extent that they
Rocking a
exist, I
46
guess, Black
Ti
Friday sales, Cyber
8
Monday sales,
gigabyte,
stuff
but
like
only
that.
paid
So we grabbed a
150 off
snapshot
Facebook
before
for
all
some
that
kid who was
to get
chasing
the sort of
frames.
most stable, most recent environment for
deal?
GPU prices. I think the data is representative of the prices we can kind of expect to see before the incoming DRAM price hikes impact the DRAM side of the industry. This will impact video card memory pricing as well.
Oh, yeah,
And so
it will.
we're going to get our last look at that, I guess. I mean, hopefully the GPU makers can kind of keep it at bay, but I really sincerely doubt
I'm
it.
actually
So
thinking
we're
of
gonna
buying
look
a
at it
5070
before it
Ti
changes
next
again.
month
So
just
then the rumors
to
that NVIDIA's
get ahead of the
unannounced 50
pass to
series
upgrade
super
this
launch will
boy.
be delayed as a result of the VRAM. AMD seems to be following a similar path. Found via Dan Neistat on Twitter, quote, AMD has notified supply chain partners it will raise graphics card prices 10% across the entire product line due to rising memory chip prices. It will reportedly be AMD's second such price increase, end quote. Further, the newest
I also can't
information
justify
suggests
getting
again, NVIDIA will stop
DDR5
selling
to
the
upgrade
packaged
to
memory with GPUs,
a
and we would bet that
9950X,
the
so I'm going
AMD
to stick with
partners
my
will get worse rates than
5950X.
NVIDIA does.
It's
So
still
today's
plenty
video is going to
fine.
be pretty straightforward compared to some of the more in-depth technical ones we've done lately, like our Linux GPU benchmarking, which you should check out if you haven't. This is much simpler though, it's just prices. We'll start by examining how GPU pricing and availability has changed within the 5.5 months since we collected prices last. Then we'll take a closer look at the 9070 XT's price history, as that's currently our most comprehensive data set for any individual GPUs. Finally, we'll wrap with additional observations and extra charts we put together trying to figure out how to visualize the data. And methodologically, this matters too. Last time we did this, we collected data from Newegg, Amazon, and Micro Center. This time, we eliminated the other two, Amazon and Micro Center. Newegg has right now the most stable prices from the most first-party sold and shipped by Newegg options with the least kind of bullshit in there from third-party sellers. And Micro Center's got the issue of
Micro Center or bust. Micro Center or bust. I can't even think of the last time I've bought anything from Newegg. Wait. It was this case from Newegg. Why? Because Micro Center was out of stock and I wanted to build the computer.
a lot of it's
I have a Micro Center credit card because you can get 5% immediately off or finance it at 0% from anywhere from 6 months to 24 months, depending on the price.
prices are predicated on in-store purchases and often combos of some kind. And so it just muddies.
I'm probably going to get the 5070 Ti and finance it that way.
Kind of comparative.
Just suck it
how
up,
is the
pay it
situation
off over a
changing.
few
You don't
months.
really care which retailer has the best price. You can take care of that on your own if you're actually going to buy
Yeah,
something.
you should have
We just
upgraded
care about
sooner.
comparison. We're also
DDR4
only
is not
working with
that bad, though.
in-stock listings. So this approach isn't perfect, and the average prices will lean higher because typically GPUs sell out at their cheapest models first, but that's the method we established earlier this year, and everyone seems pretty good with it. Remember also that we don't have the actual inventory unit counts for GPU models over all the retailers. No one really does, but we can use the number of models a certain GPU has in stock to draw inferences from it. Obviously, that doesn't tell us the quantity, though. Let's get into some charts. Our first charts will look at average prices for in-stock listings and how they've changed since we collected data in June. Of course, we also understand that other regions have different prices. For this piece, we're focusing on the market we know the best so that we can just kind of focus the data density. Compared to our June check-in, all current generation graphics cards had at least some price drop, except for the 5090. The largest price reduction since June came from the RX 9070 XT, RTX 5080, and RTX 5070 Ti. The 9070 XT dropped from $837 in June to about $655.
I'm glad the 5070 Ti is coming down.
With the $600 MSRP a further 8% below the average. And just to put it out there again, $837 in June is absolutely insane for this video card. Since June, the 5080's in-stock average decreased by $155, or 10%, to its $1,360 in-stock
I can't
average
justify
now.
a 5080.
The 5070 Ti followed similarly. Its in-stock average decreased by $130, or 14%, to its current in-stock average of $820. The 5060 Ti, 5060,
get a
and
5070
9060
Ti,
XT
a new
are the
PSU,
cheapest and
and
started
mod
closer
cables.
to MSRP, so it makes sense that they were the least impacted in terms of absolute reductions to their in-stock average prices. They saw reductions from $15 to $50.
Yeah, I got the
Intel has
5060
improved
Ti for the
dramatically,
LLM
dropping
machine
from
upstairs.
$344 on average to $264 for the B580 GPU, which is a $250 MSRP. So $344 was already completely insane. The B570 dropped from $308 to its $220 MSRP. These are significant changes by percentage, at 23% reduction for the B580 and 29% price reduced
32
for the
gigabyte of
B570.
DDR4, but
That's good to
it's
see. As for the
5200
RTX
speed.
5090,
Yeah,
it
I
was the
have
only
64
card
gigs
to
of
increase in price that we
DDR4,
tracked in the US,
but it's
with an average of
3200.
$50 greater than it was in June. Considering it doesn't
works
have
plenty fine.
competition, this price stability makes sense, but it's obviously discouraging to see an increase, and this one will be the most impacted by VRAM prices due to its capacity. It has the most VRAM, so an increase in cost in memory in general will impact it disproportionately. Without price suppression from NVIDIA's direct sourcing, it could climb the most. Using only in-stock listings, this chart shows the average price percent over MSRP baseline. The ARC B570 and B580 GPUs had outlier overages beyond MSRP previously and stand out as having the greatest return to normal pricing. We dug into this further and found these reductions were most notably caused by Weiliao's Battle Mage cards disappearing from listings. These listings were previously the most expensive for ARC, and since ARC has so few models available, they were often among the few that were in stock, so they were disproportionately affecting it previously. MSRP for the 5060 Ti 8GB is currently higher than the retail price by a thin percentage, aligning with the fact that these are still having the most trouble selling to DIY enthusiasts, so you've done well. That's probably of no concern to NVIDIA though, because SIs and OEMs will still be able to use them to mislead their customers. The 9060 XT 8GB is in a similar situation at 2.9% over MSRP now for 8GB. The 16GB models of these cards are at 7.8% and 8.3% over MSRP. The 5060 non-Ti is also close to baseline at 3.5% over on average. Some overhead past MSRP is normal, as partner models always include boards with quality of life features like better acoustics or thermals that may actually warrant a higher price within reason, and these percentages are reasonable. Looking at the data as a whole, the combined average percent over MSRP for all in-stock GPUs collectively noted by us has decreased from 27.8% over MSRP in June to 10.7% currently. In any case, broadly speaking, prices are getting better. There's still a lot to be desired, but we're optimistic that things are moving in the right direction, and we are pessimistic that this will soon stop, because that's the wrong direction for the manufacturers. Number needs to go up because bigger number better. This table shows how the number of total and MSRP listings in stock for each current generation graphics card has changed from June to the present. Total in-stock listing count increased by 26.7% from 135 to 171 model GPUs since June, with in-stock MSRP listings up 346.2% to 58 from 13 previously. This is heavily contingent on when the stock is checked, obviously, and we don't know the total volume difference, but that will align with the total volume difference. Intel's
a 5070 Ti is a very good card, but bought a 5090 for €1,200 from someone I know that needed money. Couldn't let that deal pass and sold my...
For the best. The 5090 also had a...
I would have bought that too, but I would have kept the 5070 Ti.
To only 4 at the time of
the reason why is you can always use it for more additional processing. I'm about to use my 1660 Super for TTS.
At 27 from 12, then the 9070 XT,
and then I have my 3050 and the new 5060 Ti
each
in the
with
LLM
8
box.
to 9 more in-stock models than previously. The 5070 and 8GB 5060 Ti each gained 10 in-stock MSRP cards for the greatest improvements in this category. So that's good
If
to see.
possible,
at
I'd like
least.
to buy
Although
three
the
5070
8 gigabyte
Ti's.
5060 Ti is probably because no one wants it. At the
One
time
for
of
the
writing this, all
workstation,
current
two for the
gen
LLM.
GPUs, the GPUs themselves, excluding the 5090, are available for MSRP, up from 3 of 13 GPUs previously. We won't adjust this after writing, even if it changes, but before editing, because it's important to methodologically lock in the comparison
saving
at
up for
a
an
fixed
OLED screen.
timestamp for each
I may
device.
get monitors
Overall, GPU
in a
availability
year or
has
so.
definitely improved since June. Moving on to the 9070 XT.
I've fixed these monitors a couple times.
This table compiles all 9070 XT listings
But they
we've pulled
work.
from Newegg since the
No
GPU's
issues.
launch, with averages inclusive of all models and prices collected in March, June, and November of this year. During its release, the 9070 XT's average price was $729, or 21.5% over MSRP. From launch to June, average price increased to $787, or 31.2% over
AMD
MSRP.
could just
Things
do better
got
with
worse,
LLM
making
processing
AMD's
and stuff.
MSRP promise,
I would
in our eyes,
totally
a flat-out
switch
lie.
over.
Since then, the
As well as
9070
DaVinci.
XT's average decreased, resulting in an all-time low average of $660, or 10% over MSRP currently. That's down from 31% over in June. The 9070 XT's availability also considerably improved since this summer, growing from 3 of 15 to 12 of 14 listings in stock. Unfortunately, this isn't a perfect comparison because the models listed on Newegg changed each time we collected the results, as indicated by the gaps in our table. That's why we made this
They
one.
got it working
in this
on
table,
AMD
we
now.
narrowed our results to only include the 8 specific 9070 XT models that remained listed throughout each of our data captures. Naturally, the results seen here largely correspond with those from the previous table. Each listing's price increased or didn't change from launch to June, and then decreased in the time from June to now. And that includes a couple weeks ago as well, when we took a different timestamp before the Black Friday week, whatever they call it now, sales. The averages of $720 initially went to $801 this summer, and then $675 currently. Generally speaking, aside from the summer spike, this aligns with how pricing typically changes over time, especially for AMD GPUs that tend to launch a little too close to NVIDIA pricing. Average price being currently lower than it was at launch is promising. But we only saw one 9070 XT model at MSRP at the time of data compilation. We'd like to see more from AMD on this front, especially considering the company's extremely defensive claims about it being inaccurate, as they said, to call the 9070 XT's MSRP a launch-only pricing. AMD is twisting reality with its prior statement and has now been objectively proven to be false, making them, in our
I
opinion,
haven't had an AMD or GPU since they were ATI.
They would have done better to just shut the fuck up and put the GPU in the bag, like we said previously. Now, moving on to some of our less conclusive findings. This chart represents the total and in-stock listing count for each GPU vendor's current series GPUs on Newegg. Out of the 243 total current gen Newegg listings, 192, or 79%, were provided by NVIDIA. NVIDIA is claimed to have around 90 to 94% of GPU market share, so this somewhat aligns with that. 133, or 70%, were in stock. AMD partners provided 42, or 17.3%, of Newegg's current GPU listings, with 39 out of its 42 in stock, meaning 93% in stock. Intel partners supplied 9 GPU models, making up just under 4% of all current gen Newegg listings, with nearly 90% of its models in stock. Obviously, we'd like to see more competition from AMD and Intel here, especially AMD, but both companies have a lot of work to do if they ever hope to challenge NVIDIA's dominance over the GPU market in any meaningful way. There's a game here that NVIDIA is playing, and it correlates with its market share, so that makes sense, but they are flooding the shelves just to be the most present by volume, which helps with consumer perception, but also just the odds of someone clicking on your model. It's a chicken or egg problem for the non-NVIDIA, though, because without more market share, it's hard to justify more model GPUs. This chart explores a different approach for a metric that's representative of around the cheapest price you could realistically find any of these new GPUs for. We wanted to eliminate overpriced partner models. We came up with what we're calling average low price, calculated using each GPU's 4 cheapest in-stock first-party listings. This is particularly useful for excluding each GPU's most overpriced models. This chart illustrates the difference between each GPU's average low price and its MSRP. Average low prices for the 5060 Ti 8GB, 5070, 5060, 9060 XT 8GB, and 9070 were all below their MSRPs, ranging from between $7.50 to $32.50 less. Continuing down the chart, we notice that the majority of current gen GPUs had average low prices basically equal to MSRP. This is a strong indicator that prices are gradually getting better, generally speaking. It's just unfortunate as this is likely temporary due to the memory situation.
Yeah.
Finally, taking the cake as the most egregious example on the chart, the RTX 5090's average low price was $1,100 over its $2,000 MSRP. Again, highlighting NVIDIA's lack of competition in the high end. The conclusion here is really simple. I mean, it's just, as a whole, the GPU market, from a pricing standpoint, is better. Just period, across all GPUs.
For now.
Except for the 5090, which has generally gone up slightly. So in-stock average price has decreased for all but one current series GPU on Newegg.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go to Micro Center in a week or two and get a 5070 Ti.
That's good. It gives more options. Those available for MSRP increased from 13.
Which means I'm going to have to get a power supply.
The 5060, 8 GB,
which means I have to go to mod cables and buy cables.
XT were the only new GPUs available for MSRP on Newegg. At the time of writing this, all current series GPUs have MSRP listings in stock except for the 5090. Unfortunately, the 5090 was largely unaffected by the market's improvements and continues to stand out in terms of the most abysmal price hikes over MSRP. We may check back in a few more months specifically to look for any meaningful price reductions to the 5090.
I'd love a 5090 for LLM workloads. I don't think I could justify putting it on my main workstation.
Price increases start getting passed along to the consumer here as well. Can't really
32 gigabytes of VRAM would be great for an LLM workload.
Yeah, if you asked me,
double my 5060 Ti.
My guess is that the GPU prices will probably trend up, not down, going forward, at least for some period of time due to the memory situation. So if you want to know more about, if you're like watching this, you're like, what the fuck happened to RAM? We have a video for you. It's called RAM: what the fuck? ? I think it's very aptly titled. It kind of gets the whole picture across in just, what was that, 6 letters, a question mark, and a colon. I mean, that is an efficient use of punctuations and letters if I've ever seen one. So if you don't know what is going on, specifically the fuck, then you can check out that video to learn about it. Otherwise, yeah, that's your update on GPU pricing. We have best cases online and best coolers online now if you want to check those out. And then, yeah, plenty more coming up. So subscribe as always. And you can go to store.gamersnexus.net to help us out directly. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.
Cool. All right, next video. Tetris blocks have names. I think I saw this video a while ago.
Someone out there on the internet found the original booklet that came with the original Nintendo system version of Tetris. And hold on to your hats, people. The blocks have names. The blocks have names. Tetris block names. There are several Tetris block names, and knowing which is which at a glance is essential to mastering the game. Orange Ricky, Hero, Blue Ricky, Tiwi, Cleveland Z, Smash Boy, Rhode Island Z. Someone out there on the internet found the original...
Really? What the hell? They actually had names? People had time, a lot of time back in the day. All right, so we got an article as well from the Times of AI. This was sent in by HBX. Understanding Prompt Flux, the evolution of malware powered by LLMs and AI prompts. And technologies. What is Prompt Flux? 2025, the Google Threat Intelligence Group, GTIG, interesting name, discovered an experimental dropper malware called Prompt Flux. As per their findings, the malware employs Visual Basic Script VB script and makes extensive use of Google Gemini LLM API for requesting obfuscation and evasive code changes. Ooh, that's interesting. The main difference between Prompt Flux and traditional malware is that it includes a thinking robot which continuously interacts with Gemini through machine-understandable requests, prompting it to produce new obfuscated code that will take the place of the original one. Interesting. Initial infection. VB dropper gets installed on a target computer, usually by hiding it or delivering it through social engineering. So the same, ways that you can defend against a lot of other things apply here. Thinking robot activation. Malware accesses a Gemini API using an embedded API key and sends requests like give me obfuscated VB script code that will pass antivirus. So this is the interesting thing. Okay, so it's an experimental. This is what I was thinking. Like, okay, so you have an embedded API key for Gemini. You would be able to track the attacker, though. potentially, because those API keys can be tracked. I know mine definitely can be, but there's also ways that they could possibly maliciously take another account or stuff like that. But yeah, and it's going to be expensive too. Code regeneration. Gemini gives back a new obfuscated version of the malware source code. Then Prompt Flux writes this regenerated code into its own VB script file. Persistence and spread. The altered script is placed in the Windows startup folder so it will execute on boot. The infected machine also copies on the malware to USB drives or network shares as a way of propagation. By continually altering its code, Prompt Flux makes it very challenging for signature-based detection since the code does not resemble each other at all. So this goes back to the point that I've been making, which is that traditional antivirus is not enough, and people need to get away from the idea of what's a good antivirus and start looking at what's a good EDR. Consumers should definitely be looking more towards EDR, endpoint detection and response. So the way they work is they work off of behaviors of what's going on in the machine rather than signatures of what software has. Traditional antivirus works off of the signatures, so it can only catch what it knows. Whereas an EDR can look at the behavior of, wait, this is doing that, it's accessing that, it's sending data there, wait, what's going on here, and map it to MITRE. Or, on the Microsoft side, Stride. LLM vulnerabilities that enable prompt flux. Prompt injection, model poisoning. LLMs can be misused persistently through hard-coded API keys, self-modifying code, and data leakage risks. Defending against AI-powered malware. API key protection, keep your LLM credentials safe, and watch for any unusual usage patterns. So, basically what I'm hearing is, use Doppler. They've been a sponsor of the channel quite a bit and my content. So Doppler.com, they are my secrets manager of choice. Highly recommend them. You can use them for free up to 8 different projects that you have, but they're very good, very cost effective, very easy to use. I use it for all of my projects. You should too. Behavior-based detection. Hey, we were just talking about this. EDR. Rely less on static signatures and more on anomaly detection of runtime behavior, especially just-in-time self-modification. So this goes into the EDR. Prompt security practices. Validate and sanitize any dynamic prompt inputs that come from untrusted sources. Least privilege execution. Execute scripts and AI agents with only the necessary rights. This goes into the pretty common sense stuff with cybersecurity. Only run as you need at the permissions level that you actually need it with. Don't run everything as admin. I know that is the go-to for a lot of Windows users, but stop it! Stop it! Incident response playbook. So this is on the SOC side. Anticipate AI-powered malware by preparing response plans that cover LLM compromise scenarios. Red teaming and pen testing. So a lot of these tactics are. So the attack is new and novel, but the way to defend against it isn't. These should already be in your playbook in cybersecurity. Still good to learn about. That video may not be good for stream. Okay, so we got another fun video. One more fun video for the night. Totally wrong facts you probably still believe. All right. This is from Trust Me Bro. I like their content.
Totally wrong facts that people still believe. The flat earth fallacy. Okay, we all know that the earth is flat, right? I'm obviously joking, and I'll save the tinfoil hat for another day. But what I'm referring to isn't flat earthers in the modern day, but it's the flat earth belief that was held by people in the Middle Ages. Specifically around the time when Christopher Columbus took his infamous journey across the ocean. Obviously, during the Middle Ages, it was believed that the Earth was flat and that if you were to sail too far in the wrong way in the ocean, you could literally fall off the Earth. And it was for this reason that Christopher Columbus wanted to prove these people wrong and risked his life sailing.
It's still wild to think he literally did this to go like, no, y'all are wrong, discovers America.
At that time. Now, what if I told you that everything you just heard about that situation is not true whatsoever? What? It is actually a rather popular misconception. Let me explain. While Christopher Columbus did sail across the ocean to prove a point, the point he was not trying to prove was that the Earth wasn't flat. The point he was trying to prove was that the Earth wasn't as big as some people suspected. It is historical fact that not only Christopher Columbus, but basically any educated individual during the 1400s knew that the Earth wasn't flat and was in fact round. And this knowledge dates back far before Christopher Columbus or even the Middle Ages entirely. Some of the first recorded suggestions that the Earth may be round actually date all the way back to the 6th century BC with the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. And later in the 4th century BC, Aristotle even agreed and supported this theory, citing one personal observation that he noticed every time he traveled southward, southern constellations would be higher in the sky. But this, of course, wasn't the only evidence we had of the Earth being round. During this time, we also had recorded observations of lunar eclipses showing a round shadow on the moon from Earth, and of course, numerous eyewitness accounts of mountains seemingly growing out of the ground on the horizon as you approach them, or seeing a ship seemingly submerge into the water as it sails into the ocean. My point is that we've had a lot of evidence that the Earth is round, and it dates back far, like way before the Middle Ages and even way before the Common Era. But just to further validate this point, in the 3rd century BC, it wasn't just a suggestion that the Earth may be round. At this point, it was basically a known fact to anybody in the educated community. And philosophers and scientists were not so much focused on the shape of the Earth,
use GNOME, but I'll be going to Cosmic soon.
Most impressively, at this time, the head librarian of the Library of Alexandria, Eratosthenes, was able to estimate the circumference of the Earth with 99% accuracy. And while that estimate wasn't proven to be extremely accurate until much later, it still goes to show that there was a lot of evidence suggesting that not only was the world not flat very long ago, but that people were well aware that the Earth was not flat. Which brings us back to our original point. No, Christopher Columbus did not think that he was potentially going to fall off the world, and nobody who was educated or even slightly paying attention thought that either. And while seemingly flat earthers have existed in every era of history, they're as ridiculous today as they were back in 1492. Now, this next wrong fact I want to mention isn't even a wrong fact at all. It's honestly just a shocking truth. Did you know that basically all cloud storage services use your files to train AI and sell your data?
Oh,
it is, besides today's video sponsor, Proton Drive. Proton is trusted by over 100 million
Proton's
people
good.
Worldwide. And Proton Drive specifically offers end-to-end encrypted files.
I'm also affiliated
storage.
with them.
Proton offers privacy by default on all of their products. And what that means is that Proton protects your personal information and personal files from being shared with advertisers or being used to train AI or other third parties. I use Proton Drive because it allows me to store, collaborate, and share Trusty Bro assets with my team super easily, just like other services, but with more privacy and security. Proton Drive has saved my butt on more than one occasion. Due to all the moving parts of my videos,
I use Proton as well.
Is not a stranger to my production process, and there has been numerous times where file backups stored on Proton Drive were the only reason you guys got a video on time. So if you are looking for a secure way to store your files that are protected with end-to-end encryption, this Black Friday, protect your files. Sign up to Proton Drive for free using my link in the description. Thank you, Proton Drive, for sponsoring this video. So, what was the point of this entire expedition? Well, like I mentioned earlier, Columbus didn't believe the mainstream theory of how big the Earth was. And his goal, with the support from Queen Elizabeth, was not to prove that the Earth was round or not to see what was beyond the edge of the Earth, but to potentially find a more quick and efficient trade route between Europe and Asia to optimize international trade. And of course, we all know what happened from there on out, and well, here we are. So yeah, the suggestions
in the USA
believing the Earth was flat are actually modern misinformation, with this myth being brought to the mainstream in the 1700s and 1800s. And unfortunately today, stick figures on the internet still need to undo all of this misinformation. But in case you wanted a real misconception that was believed during the Middle Ages, I'll give you one. A lot of people during this time suspected that the sun rotated around the Earth. That was until Nicholas Copernicus came around and suggested that maybe the Earth rotated around our sun. And he did so not with observable evidence, but with
they called him a witch.
That was not only hard to argue, but was eventually proven true. The Mount Everest myth. If learning that the Earth is actually round blew your mind, then this is about to shatter it. Everybody and their grandmother's grandmother knows that Mount Everest is by far the tallest mountain in the entire world. But what if I told you that actually wasn't the case. Now, before you think I'm lying, let me just confirm that yes, Mount Everest has the highest peak above sea level in the entire world. The peak of Mount Everest is 29,029 feet above sea level, and it is confirmed the tallest peak around the globe. But what if I told you that there was another mountain that was technically taller? If you're confused, don't worry, because I'm about to make it all make sense.
Oh wait, is that one in the Marinus Transfer?
Dormant volcano on the island of Hawaii. Looking at this mountain, it's relatively impressive, but only stands at roughly 13,800 feet above sea level, meaning that it's tall, but it's obviously not taller than Mount Everest. That is, unless you measured from base to peak. And this is where this technicality comes into play, because Mauna Kea is kind of like an iceberg, and there's a lot more than meets the eye. Specifically, the 20,000 feet of mountain that exists under the ocean. That's right, unlike Mount Everest, the base of Mauna Kea is submerged deep underwater. And it's for that reason that while from base to tip, it is technically 4,000 feet taller than Mount Everest, due to the fact that most of it is actually underwater, it will unfortunately never claim the title of tallest mountain simply because it has a pretty significant disadvantage of existing in an ocean. It's almost like you were 6'5" and you went to a tall guy competition. But in order to compete, you had to stand in a 5-inch hole, meaning that you were only 6 foot. And while the person you were competing was standing on flat ground and was only 6'1" tall, well, guess what? This other guy is technically taller than you, even if you have a few inches underground. But I have a feeling this one might be a bit controversial, so let me know what you think. Does anything below sea level not count, even if it is part of the mountain's base?
No, it still counts to me.
Mauna Kea an underdog that deserves more attention? Because realistically, base to tip, it is the tallest mountain in the entire world. I'll let you guys.
I mean, I know a lot of guys that also measure that way too.
Person in the world. Next time you hear somebody claim that Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world, make sure to confidently and rudely tell them, no, actually, Mount Everest has the tallest peak in the world, but Mauna Kea is the tallest base to tip. And in case that doesn't kill the mood at the party, well, then just tell them how much you hate pineapple on pizza, because those people are annoying too. The hot-headed host.
Hey,
One experience I had when I was
pineapple on
younger that I think
pizza
we all share is the experience
can
of
be
being
okay.
a kid and not wanting to wear a coat. There was just so many times
I just
where
started
it
a
was
war in the
cold out,
chat,
but
didn't
I
I?
didn't want to wear a coat. I had no logical explanation. I just didn't feel like wearing that restrictive device. But every single time, Mama Bro made me wear my coat and we went about our day. But it wasn't always a coat I was apprehensive to wear. Sometimes it was hats and gloves. Which brings me to the myth at play. My mom used to tell me that you have to wear a hat when it's cold out because 80% of the heat from your body leaves through your head. And for that reason, you need to insulate it to ensure you are fully warm. And I know for a fact, my mom wasn't the only person to say that. And if I was a betting man, I would say that your mom probably did too. But whether it was a family member or a loved one or a friend or even just a news article, the reality is this. Your head is not some elusive chimney that is dead set on lowering your body's core temperature. But before we use facts to completely debunk this myth, let's actually trace back the origins of it. And it's not that long ago. The most commonly accepted origin of this myth dates back to the 1970s in a US Army survival manual, where in that survival manual, it claims that covering your head is a necessity in the cold because, quote, 40 to 45% of body heat is lost from the head. And while you think a US Army survival manual would be a relatively reputable source for this sort of information, this is one thing they got wrong. But at this point, you might be asking yourself, where did they even get this number or this theory? How did they come up with 40 to 45% of your body heat being lost through your head? And well, those roots date back to the 1950s, where the US military was doing tests on volunteers
Of course, it's the
Arctic
military.
survival suits and were exposed to bitterly cold conditions. And the point of this test was to see where the body was losing most heat in these suits to better help optimize them. And during this flawed analysis, one thing that the scientists realized was that, most of the body heat in these volunteers is being lost through their head. But as you can see, these Arctic survival suits do not include hats, meaning that logically the head would lose the most heat, not because it is some crazy part of the body, it's just the fact that the head was not covered. And scientists who went back to analyze this data have even been recorded to say, quote, if the experiment had been performed with people only wearing swim trunks, then they would have lost no more than 10% of the heat through their heads. And it's almost hard to believe that such a simple seeming logical fallacy would exist in such a professional place, you know, a literal military survival test. But I suppose this one was overlooked because, yeah, if your entire body is insulated and only your head is exposed to the elements, your head definitely will lose the most amount of heat. Not because your head is vulnerable, but because the head was the only part that was literally exposed to the elements. So here's the facts. While it may seem logical that your head may be more vulnerable because of the lack of fat and the abundance of blood vessels, the reality is that heat escapes from all parts of the human body at a similar rate per
makes
square
sense.
inch. And while in your own personal experience, it may seem like your head is the primary source of your heat loss in cold weather, as we saw in the military test, it's not necessarily because your your head is extra vulnerable, it's because typically your head is the least insulated with clothing. So yeah, is it a good idea to wear a hat or a toque on a cold day? Definitely. But is it because your head loses much more heat than the rest of your body? No, your head is just more vulnerable because most people aren't wearing toques all the time. And even if you are wearing a toque, it's very unlikely that you're insulating your head like you're insulating your chest, because you could put on a coat and insulate your entire torso. But unless you're wearing a balaclava and ski goggles, your head is always going to be less insulated. Not biologically, but by choice. The cold conundrum. Okay, since we're already on the topic of cold weather and stuff your mom told you, I figured this would be the perfect follow-up. And the follow-up in question is the interesting fact that you can get sick from being exposed to the cold. Logically, it makes sense. It's called a cold, you get it from being cold. What else is there to question? That is logical fact. But what if I was to be so bold to suggest that it wasn't the cold weather that was directly causing flu season to affect people? And I know it may sound blasphemous to your grandmother, but going outside without a hat or with wet hair isn't going to cause you to catch pneumonia. So what's the real scoop? Well, for starters, it's proven that you can't get an infectious or viral disease simply from being exposed to cold temperatures. However, you can get hypothermia, but that's different. So why do
I've always had this argument when people are like, oh yeah, you need to bundle up, you'll get a cold if it's too cold.
The fact of the matter is, there is something to it, but it's a lot more than meets the eye. You see, just because you don't develop a flu upon first contact with a cool breeze, doesn't mean that there's not factors at play that cause the typical flu season. And while temperatures getting cooler may be the most obvious and seemingly guilty culprit, it's really one of the least. And some of the more unlikely culprits are the following. Firstly, reduced vitamin D levels, because as winter approaches, people are spending less time outside, the sun is seen less in most parts of the world, and as a result, your vitamin D levels are below what they should be. On top of this, during cooler months, overall air humidity is lowered, and it has been proven that lower humidity can increase your risk of rhinoviruses. And thirdly, rhinoviruses are typically spread through direct person-to-person contact, or by inhaling small droplets in the air, which is gross. But these things can only take place when you're coming in contact with people, typically in an enclosed environment. And during colder months, we typically spend more time inside, meaning that there's more risk of exposure. And
I like how he's got the little water pipe down there.
It's not really hard to understand how more people could be more susceptible to diseases at a certain time of year, regardless of the outside temperature. So to settle the debate once and for all, does direct cold exposure cause you to get sick? No. But does every aspect of winter covertly try to get you sick? I would say yes. Meaning that just because you're safe from a cold breeze doesn't mean you're safe from a cold. Bubblegum bewilderment. Okay, admittedly, this entry is a bit less serious, but I think it's definitely the most universal, and call it a playground fact if you will, because I believe that
I'll be heading out probably after this video too.
Either believed or at least heard of this next fact, which is that if you swallow chewing gum, it will stay in your stomach for 7
years. Oh, I've heard this for years.
Or, some variation of that. And if you've ever heard this, well, I'm about to give you the full scoop. And if you still believe this, well, I'm about to blow your mind. Obviously, because I'm talking about this in this video, the gum does not stay in your body for 7 years. It actually stays in your digestive system for over 20 years. That is a joke. It does not at all. You see, it is true that gum is indigestible. Your body can simply not break it down and process it. But that does not mean that your body can't pass it through. And believe it or not, you probably eat a lot of things that your body can simply not digest. And if you don't believe me, well, 2 popular examples are corn and sunflower seeds. And don't even get me started on indigestible fibers. Keep in mind, your body is resilient. And just imagine all the stuff that our ancient stomachs had to deal with. And just think about all the things your body had to deal with when you were a kid. You know, swallowing Lego and eating Polly Pocket pieces. Or possibly even shoving those light bright things up your nose. Regardless, your body in one way or another is able to deal with pretty interesting situations. It is for that reason that gum in your digestive tract, at least on rare occasions, is not a concern. But it does in fact differ from standard digestion. Let me explain. In the context of normal food items, there is a 3-step process that every food must go through before it can be digested. First, your food must be, of course, chewed. And this chewing process not only breaks down food, but also increases its surface area, which is directly beneficial for the next step of the process, which is actually executed by your saliva. Your saliva covers these small pieces of food, and with its now increased surface area, your saliva's enzymes are able to break it down even further. And once the food is properly chewed and salivated, it is then sent to your stomach for the final stage of processing, where your stomach acid turns all of your food into a smooth mush that your digestive tract can easily pass through and absorb nutrients out of. And while this is the process for most foods, gum does not play by these rules at all. For starters, you can chew gum all day long, and the breakdown it's going to experience is minimal. And the vast majority of people will spit out their gum before it'll ever begin to break down into smaller pieces. But even if you did intentionally chew your gum into smaller pieces, it's not going to affect what happens in the next 2 stages. You see, chewing gum is made out of both natural and synthetic polymers. And it's for this reason that the gum cannot be broken down by either your saliva or your stomach acid. And that's honestly a good thing, because if your body was able to break down the polymers for your digestive tract to absorb it, you would get very sick. So be grateful it's kind of immune to those processes. But regardless, now that you have intact gum, not only in your stomach, but now in your digestive tract, what happens? Well, like any other food product, it'll slowly make its way through your digestive system, potentially getting caught up on the way, but eventually getting its way out, typically in 1 to 2 days. Although gum can be sticky, your body is designed to get rid of even the most stubborn of foods, and that includes chewing gum. But I will say this, even though chewing gum won't stay in your stomach for 7 years like you might have thought on the playground, it's not recommended that you start swallowing it en masse. And that's because if you do swallow enough chewing gum, you can develop something that's known as a bezoar, which is just essentially a blockage in your digestive tract, which can be painful, dangerous, and even deadly if left untreated.
That sounds
chewing gum
horrible.
does not stay in your body for numerous years, although it's not recommended you try it for yourself. The chameleon con. I'm about to take you on an emotional roller coaster, but spoiler alert, it has a happy ending, so buckle up. We all know that chameleons can change color. That is their claim to fame, and I am not going to take that from them. That is an undisputed fact. But the thing that I will dispute is the fact that they do this for camouflage purposes. In almost every cartoon and TV chameleon we see, they are specifically changing their colors to blend into a specific environment. And while this is a neat party trick and a logical survival instinct, this is actually not what's going on in most cases. But before I describe exactly why chameleons actually change color, I want to describe exactly how they change color, because this process is amazing. You see, in the skin of a chameleon, it has what is known as pigment cells. Pigment cells aren't necessarily rare in the animal kingdom, and there are certain animals that can even control them, such as squids and cuttlefish. Those animals actually have small muscles that can expand or contract these pigment cells to change their color. However, that's not how the chameleon changes its colors. It has these pigment cells, but it can't control them. Now, interestingly, between these pigment cells, chameleons have separate cells that have darker melanin pigment, and these cells specifically can be controlled by the chameleon. And how this works is really quite astonishing. These melanin pigment cells basically expand or contract across the surface of the skin to either darken or lighten the skin of the chameleon. And this works completely separately from the default pigment cells that are already on the skin. Chameleons aren't the only animal that do this process either. There's a fish known as the tilapia fish that also has this same method of color
Wait,
change.
tilapia can do
see
that?
on this close-up video,
I eat tilapia all the time.
in real time, and it is so crazy. Seeing it side by side on a visual level and on a cellular level is so interesting. But we're still not done yet, because on top of the pigment cells that already exist and the melanin pigment cells that the chameleon can control, the chameleon also has tiny crystals in its skin that reflect light. And by seemingly some miracle, the chameleons can control exactly how far these crystals are from each other within its own skin. And the distance that these crystals are from each other directly determine the type of light that is reflected off the chameleon's skin. And now that we know the 3 primary tools in a chameleon's tool belt when it comes to changing color, how does this look in real time? Because I think most of us have a falsified idea of how this even looks. Here's a side-by-side video of a fake chameleon change and a real chameleon change. As you can see, the real is a little bit slower and a lot less dramatic, but still amazing nonetheless. But to go back to the original point of this section, if chameleons don't change their color for camouflage, why do they change their color at all? And sometimes fact is stranger than fiction, because chameleons are basically nature's mood ring. And scientists are pretty certain that in most cases, the only reason that chameleons are changing color are to better express their emotions to potential mates or to potential predators. And scientists even have their own theories on what each color means, which I'll go through right now. It's believed that when chameleons are extremely bright and colorful, they are at their most excited. And this could mean excited about a potential fight or excited about a potential mating session. I said mating session. When chameleons are typically darker, it's believed they are feeling more submissive or relaxed, for a less sensual word. But yeah, chameleons are cool, cute, cuddly. Some of them even have horns, but what you've been told about them is a lie. And it's believed that in the vast majority of cases, chameleons don't change color to blend in, they're changing color to better express themselves, which I think is an even cooler reality than what's portrayed in movies. But that's just my opinion. The subscriber scam. I think that one common fact most people believe is that if somebody's watching your video, they're probably subscribed to you. But I'm here to tell you that that fact is completely wrong. And I've got the facts to prove it. YouTube tells me that nearly 75% of people watching my videos are not even subscribed, which is a crazy statistic. So if you've been watching my videos and you enjoy them, feel free to hit the subscribe button. And if you need a reason to subscribe and you're not already, look at the subscribe button while I say, subscribe to Trust Me Bro. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. But now let's get to our next serious section, the fortune cookie falsehood. Growing up, getting Chinese food was a special occasion, and it was truly one of my favorite special meals. And out of the entire seemingly endless spread that we would order from these Chinese food places, my favorite part of the meal was always the fortune cookie. Obviously a staple in Chinese cuisine, and a long-lasting tradition in Chinese culture, right? The fortune cookie, always served in Chinese restaurants, has to be Chinese. It would make no sense any other way, right? And while I agree with that hypothesis, I'm sorry to tell you, but that is not the truth. The fortune cookies that you and I get in modern-day Chinese food have almost nothing to do with China
Right,
whatsoever.
it's San
And
Francisco.
ironically, when the whole fortune cookie craze took over the Western world, companies tried selling fortune cookies in China, marketing them as a American treat, but they were taken off shelves because nobody was interested in them. And I genuinely don't think you can get more ironic than that. But if the paper in cookie tradition doesn't come from China and the cookie doesn't come from China, then who came up with these crazy cookies and why do they sell them at Chinese food spots? Well, I'm gonna answer both of those questions. But to be totally transparent, there is no definitive historical source of Chinese fortune cookies. All we have is some more modern accounts and some historical speculation, with the most proven and accepted theory being that Chinese fortune cookies actually originate in Japan. One of the only historical records of modern-day Chinese fortune cookies exist in illustrations from 19th century Japan, and these illustrations show a treat known as Sujiura Senbei. But these illustrations aren't just a relic from the past, because to this day, you can buy this treat handmade on the streets of Kyoto. And how they make it is the following. Bakers will use iron molds, will grill the dough to a medium firm consistency, and then they will fold this dough into something they call small waffles. And it's during this folding process where they will insert a piece of paper with the fortune and give it its classic curved shape. But admittedly, this Japanese version and the Western version you and I are likely used to eating are not the same. With Sujiura Senbei, for example, they are larger, darker, and savory. Whereas in the American version, they are sweeter, smaller, and lighter in texture because they are using butter instead of miso in the baking process. But while that is interesting and insightful, it still doesn't answer the question, how did this get into Chinese restaurants in America? And well, the answer is immigration and adaptability. During the 1910s, a lot of Japanese immigrants were landing in California. And with them, they brought their culture, specifically Sujiura Senbei. And while that logically explains why these fortune cookies are in America, why are they in Chinese restaurants? And while this isn't definitively proven, the most commonly accepted answer as of now is a result of Asian fusion food restaurants and America's early on disdain for Japanese food. And what I mean by this is, in the 1910s, a lot of Japanese immigrants were struggling to open authentic Japanese restaurants, specifically because Americans were not too fond of eating raw fish. And because of this, these Japanese entrepreneurs decided that their best next steps were to create Chinese food restaurants, tailoring the dishes to the American palate, specifically giving a sweet treat at the end of a meal. Hence why the American fortune cookie is sweet and the Japanese version is, well, not. I saved this entry for the end of the video because technically it's not fact. There is a lot of working theories about all of the specific origins, and there is not one definitive historical account start to finish of the entire history of fortune cookies. However, what I've told you today is most commonly the accepted version of events. However, you could argue it's not fully known. And well, that's accurate. But I honestly just think the entire history of fortune cookies is just so interesting because it was a Japanese tradition that was brought to America, was extremely popular in America, was brought to China, and failed in China, which is, I don't know, ironic and worth mentioning. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to conclude our second video about totally wrong facts you probably still believe. If you enjoyed this video about totally wrong facts,
we're just watching
check out the video on screen right now about
video
crazy
about
things that science
totally wrong
still can't
facts.
explain. It's interesting and admittedly open-ended, so maybe you can solve some of these mysteries.
Yep. So I watch Trust Me Bro every now and then. It's just a good little thing to get in your brain and everything. He has some funny videos. There's some that I definitely can't watch here on stream because, yeah. But it is starting to get a little late, guys, so I'm going to be calling it here. Thank you all for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't, to follow me on all of my socials. I'm on Blue Sky, Mastodon, Kick, Twitch, and YouTube, as well as TikTok. And then don't forget to join the Discord and the Matrix server. The links are in bio for all of them. I'll see you all on Wednesday. Maybe there'll be an extra stream on Tuesday or Thursday. We'll see how I feel. But otherwise, see you Wednesday. Stay safe. Love you all. And happy hacking. Stick around for the raid if you're on Twitch.